Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the July Board of Governors meeting. To access the Board of Governors meeting agenda, please visit our website at www.cccco.edu and go to the About Us tab drop-down menu. From there, click the Board of Governors, then Meeting Schedule, Minutes, and Agenda, and select the blue agenda hyperlink. As a reminder, closed caption is available. Click the CC icon at the bottom of the screen labeled closed caption to read live captions. Members of the public wishing to comment on an agenda item may use the raise hand feature to make a verbal public comment to the board. A member of the Chancellor's office will announce your name and grant you the ability to speak. You are requested to identify yourself and present your public comment at that time. President Haynes, today is July 13th, 2021. Would you like me to begin with roll call?
Yes, would you please? Thank you.
Sure thing. Hildegard B. Aguinaldo.
Present.
Darius W. Anderson.
Yes.
Amy M. Costa.
Present.
Tom Epstein.
You're muted, Tom.
Here.
Felicia Escobar Carrillo.
Here.
Jolina M. Grande.
Here.
Pamela Haynes.
Here.
Kevin J. Hall. Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis. Jennifer L. Perry. Bill Rawlings.
Present.
Valerie L. Shaw.
Here.
Yulia Tarasova.
Present.
Blas Villalobos. Joseph R. Williams.
Here.
Here.
President Haynes, quorum is established.
Thank you so much. Well, if we didn't have a quorum, we would, given the presence of board member Williams's relative down there. Anyway, welcome everyone. We have a full agenda relative to our information items, and so I would like to start off with item 6.1, which is the Vision for Success Spotlight, Equitable Placement, Implementation and Evaluation. And we have Vice Chancellor Lowe who will be presenting, and we also will have a co-presenter visiting executive heads. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my slides and get us started. So good morning, everyone. Aisha Lowe, Vice Chancellor of Educational Services and Support. Very pleased to be here this morning to provide this informational spotlight, which is an update on the implementation and evaluation of AB 705. So as we work our way through this spotlight, you will be presented 5 main components. One will provide an update on the implementation to date, and in particular focus in on our efforts to shift from compliance to continuous improvement founded in the purpose and goals of AB 705. We will then review some of the results to date, focused on 2 key components. One, the increases in access and completion that our system has achieved, but we will also assess where below transfer level placements have met the standards of AB 705 as assessed by the validation of practices data that colleges submitted in January. We will then discuss what the Chancellor's Office response is going to be to those results as we continue to support the system in full implementation. We'll then shift to a preview of an equitable placement dashboard that will be publicly available on our website, and Dr. John Hetz will jump in there to overview that dashboard. And then I will close out with a discussion of our fall 2021 priorities. So we are all aware of the history that led to AB 705 as well as AB 1805, the years of research that took place, even prior lawsuits that took place, and a host of advocacy that has taken place across our system. And through those efforts, there was a clear recognition that our former assessment and placement practices did create structural barriers that disproportionately impacted students of color and low-income students. We are aware that prior to AB 705, the vast majority of California community college students started in remedial courses, that attrition was high, particularly for African American and Latinx students. Few successfully transitioned to those very important transfer level English and math courses. And we now know that these practices and outcomes halted students' academic progress and really weeded thousands of students out of our system. AB 705 required colleges to place students in such a way that students would then enroll in and complete Gateway English and Math courses in 1 year or 3 years for ESL. More importantly, the intent of the law was to maximize student success. And to date, evidence has consistently and reliably shown that transfer level coursework is most beneficial for most students. So as we continue to implement and evaluate the implementation of this transformational reform, our focus is shifting from compliance to full implementation. Not simply ensuring that we're implementing the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. And the spirit and intent of this reform is not simply that students have the option to enroll in these essential gateway courses, but that our districts and colleges ensure that students' entrance into, support in, and successful completion of these courses is maximized. And so we really are going to be leaning into, and part of the results that you'll see today, that concept of maximize, right? Which by definition means to make as large or as great as possible, right? To make the best use of this opportunity. So the work of implementing AB 705 with full fidelity requires that we create the largest opportunities possible for access to gateway courses. That means our work needs to shift now to data-driven advising, making sure that we are comprehensively informing students, not just of their right to access transfer level coursework, but of the benefits and advantages of them doing so, and really defaulting to transfer level placement. As we continue to maximize implementation of AB 705, we need to ensure the greatest enrollment possible into these very important gateway courses. We know, because research has clearly shown us, that entrance into those gateway math and English courses set students up on a pathway for success. And when they are not on that pathway to success, it can very significantly derail their goals and their completion. And then lastly, as we continue to lean into what it means to maximize and fully implement AB 705, we want to make best use of these opportunities for students for providing them the support that they need to perform well and be successful in completing those gateway courses. That means we're going to need to increase our investments in concurrent support and really ensure that within the classroom, students are having the kind of experience in the classroom environment, in the curriculum and the pedagogy that supports their learning and allows them to feel welcomed within the classroom. So as we review implementation today and our progress to date, as well as talk about the work that is still before us, we want to keep this, what I'm calling ecosystem of equitable placement in mind, that this is about access, enrollment, and performance. So turning to implementation to date, you have seen part of this before. We are aware of the work that has taken place to date, from legislation to establishing Title V regulations and collecting adoption plans. We then had full implementation of English and math by fall of 2019. Similar work is now underway for English as a second language, with colleges having just submitted those adoption plans July 1 of this year. In spring of 2020, we produced an equitable placement toolkit. If you have not seen that, do encourage you to log into the Vision Resource Center, join the equitable placement community, and to take a look at that toolkit. It is hyperlinked at the very top of that community. Very interactive, exhaustive toolkit that provides colleges with samples and templates to support them in the process of implementing AB 705. We have more recently produced the Equitable Placement Dashboard, which you will get a preview of today. And I want to pause here to thank those who reviewed the dashboard and provided us feedback on the dashboard, as you see listed here. We want to thank our various constituency groups within the system, as well as a host of various research groups and advocacy groups, as well as legislative staff, for whom we all had briefings of the Equitable Placement Dashboard, gave them a preview, and received their feedback. Looking then again to spring of 2021, collecting that English and math validation of practices data from colleges, which will be a central focus of our spotlight today. We also have a host of data analysis and research that are taking place around English as a second language. We want to thank the RP Group and MMAP that are essential partners in that process in collecting data and information so that we can provide more detailed guidance to our colleges around how best to support our English as a second language students. Again, those adoption plans that were submitted for ESL implementation July 1, colleges also just submitted their AB 1805 data templates. And as a reminder, AB 1805 was the companion legislation for AB 705 that requires that every year colleges submit to our office all of their placement and enrollment data, requires that colleges also publicly display that data themselves, requires our office to publicly display that data, hence part of the impetus for the Equitable Placement Dashboard you will see today. And also reminds our colleges of the important requirement of communicating fully to students around their rights to access transfer level courses. And so part of what we collected from colleges were details and artifacts about how they are communicating with students. We, of course, now are in summer 2021. We are leaning into those English and math validation of practices templates that were received and responding to those. And then we'll talk about our fall 2021 priorities toward the end of our spotlight. So as we transition now, we're really going to focus today on an overview of the results of those English and math validation of practices data that were collected this January, as well as discuss what our response is going to be to the colleges. So as we give a brief highlight of some of those initial results, as a reminder, you received Board of Governors a full briefing on fall 2019 results during the January Equitable Placement Spotlight. So I will not rehash all of that data and information. As you hopefully remember, there were 3 very exhaustive reports from the Public Policy Institute of California, from the RP Group in MMAP, from CAP, that really detailed the initial results for equitable placement implementation. I will highlight here a few key findings to remind us of the significant progress that has been made. And also do want to note again that we're looking here at results for English and math implementation. This does not yet include ESL, as ESL implementation is just beginning. So this is a visual that you did see back in January, these early results from fall of 2019, showing us that student access to Gateway English and math courses has increased significantly. You see an increase from 38% in English in 2015 to 96% in 2019. So substantial increases in access to transfer level courses in English. And we also see a significant increase from 21% to 78% in math. So even in just the first term of implementation, we were able to see the positive impact of AB 705, that access has significantly increased, and the vast majority of our students are enrolling directly in those important transfer level courses. Another important piece of data, this from the RP Group MMAP report, where we see similar substantial improvements here in 1-year completion rates. So you're seeing here 1-year completion rates for English, disaggregated by high school GPA bands. And what you will notice is that no matter a student's prior performance, measured here by their high school GPA band, we see large improvements that have taken place. And those improvements have actually been largest or most substantive for the lowest and middle high school GPA bands. So this really indicates the positive impact of the AB 705 reform, no matter what a student's prior performance was. We see similar trends in math. Of course, the numbers are not as high. Performance in math is lower and progress has not been as large as we have seen in English, but we still see substantive improvements here, which represents important outcomes for many of our students. So overall, if we just think about even that quick snapshot of how much both access, enrollment, and completion has changed within our system, we see very positive results. We see that more students are taking and completing these essential gateway math and English courses. We see that's true no matter their prior performance. We also saw that in the January spotlight to be true across all subgroups. You saw in January additional disaggregations by racial ethnic groups, by particular student subgroups like DSPS or students in foster care. Across the board, we saw positive impact. Additionally, overall, in examining overall success rates, we were able to see that there also have been increases in both English and math for overall success rates. So all of this is indicating for us that AB 705 was certainly a needed reform and is improving student outcomes across the board, across our system. So as we prepare to transition, I always like to make the connection back to our goals, to the vision for success, to our guided pathway strategy. What we have seen even just in initial implementation is that all students can learn at high levels if they are given the opportunity to do so. And that when we eliminate opportunity gaps, we can start to diminish equity gaps. So the work that we are doing around equitable placement is very much tied to the goals of the vision for success, very much tied to, I believe, in particular, guided pathway pillar 4, ensuring learning, that placement and that enrollment is the beginning of that learning process. And as we move now in implementation beyond legal compliance solely to focusing on centering and maximizing student success in these gateway and math courses, we will continue to do that in light of the initial results today and really with the continued push that we really do have a moral obligation to provide all students these opportunities and to support their success. So that's the good news. And while we celebrate all of the progress the system has made, and as you just saw, the progress has been substantial, we cannot say that AB 705 has been fully implemented. We know that gaps remain and there is still much work to be done. We still see gaps for disproportionately impacted students. We have seen concerning trends that colleges with larger populations of African American and Latinx students are most likely to still be placing students below transfer level. We saw evidence that some colleges increased their below transfer level course offerings in fall 2020. And we know that not all colleges are currently implementing concurrent support, even though we have initial evidence, in particular what you saw in January from the PPIC report, evidence that concurrent support is one of the best ways that we can support our students in these transfer level courses. So speaking of those results to date, let's shift now to another set of results, but really with a different subgroup of students and a very specific analysis. So I want to clearly indicate the shift here from the data we've just reviewed to what we are now going to review. So this really transitions us to the evaluation of implementation and an essential assessment of how we are meeting one of the key standards of proof for AB 705, right? So AB 705 requires colleges to maximize the probability that a student will enter and complete those very important gateway courses in English and math within a one-year time frame. So therefore, in order to validate colleges' implementation of AB 705, the Chancellor's Office collected data to assess if students enrolling in below transfer level courses were equally likely to enter and complete gateway math and English courses in 1 year compared to their student counterparts who were enrolled directly in those gateway courses. So this is the key point of comparison when assessing whether or not we're meeting that important standard of proof for AB 705. So as you see here, this data was collected for a very specific subset of students and a very specific subset of enrollments, which distinguishes it from the data that you just saw above. So in these data files the colleges submitted, looking again at enrollments in fall of 2019, this data set was for students in the lowest high school GPA band with the requisite academic goals. And the reason that we focused in on the lowest high school GPA band relates to the other key metric of AB 705, where AB 705 states that students also can only be placed below transfer level if they are highly unlikely to succeed in the transfer level course. And given the wealth of research that had accompanied this reform, students in the lowest high school GPA band were the only students for whom one could reasonably even consider the potential that they might be highly unlikely to succeed. So we honed in on that specific subgroup. This data template also had colleges reporting where they used some sort of local placement method that they had innovated that had resulted in below transfer level or pre-gateway course enrollments, and then also where colleges had created some sort of guided placement or self-placement process that placed students into pre-gateway courses. So again, want to clearly distinguish how this is different than the previous data. We're talking about a very specific subgroup of students, smaller sample sizes as well. And then again, this very focused analysis on this key AB 705 metric. So again, for students in the lowest high school GPA band who enrolled in a pre-gateway math or English course as their first enrollment in fall 2019, we wanted to then compare how did those students fare when they enrolled in those pre-gateway courses? And were they equally likely or more likely to enter and complete the gateway course within 1 year? And that was this initial evaluation of AB 705. So what did this show us? This showed us, as we in some ways expected that we would see, that no, those pre-gateway or below transfer level enrollments were not the best option for students, not as we have historically said, maximizing throughput, again, really maximizing that 1 year completion. So of our 115 colleges that submitted these evaluation templates, again, for this data of fall 2019, we had 7 colleges that did not enroll students below the gateway course. So these 7 colleges were fully implementing equitable placements. These colleges were also not using any sort of guided placement or self-placement processes. The remaining 108 colleges fell into one of these categories. So 5 colleges were maximizing throughput, again, maximizing 1 year completion rates for one group of students, but not all group of students. And when we say one group of students, we're talking about very specific small samples. So for example, a small sample of BSIM students in the lowest high school GPA band with an educational goal of transfer where there were only 64 students. Or a small group of 36 SLAM students with an unknown high school GPA and an educational goal of an associate's degree. So very niche, small samples where we were able to see some evidence of maximizing 1 year completion. 66 of the colleges, that's 57.4%, were not maximizing throughput, again, maximizing 1 year completion for any student groups. We then had 29 colleges who reported sample sizes too small for us to do the analysis and engage in meaningful comparison, and 8 colleges that reported incomplete or inaccurate data. And we flagged that they're incomplete or inaccurate because based on what the colleges submitted, which for many of them, what was an indication that they did not need to submit data because they were fulfilling the requirements of AB 705, when we cross-reference other data sources, for example, the college's placement rules or their Fall 29 college catalog, or other sources like the Basic Skills Progress Tracker, We were able to see that based on other sources, more data should have been reported, or that data itself should have been reported. And so that's why we say here for these colleges, data was incomplete or inaccurate. So we're going to transition now to what our response is going to be based on these results. But before I move on to that, just want to emphasize again what this is indicating for us. So what these results show us is that even with a small specific sample of the students who would be reasonably potentially suspected to be low performers, those in the lowest high school GPA band, even in that very specific group, enrolling in pre-gateway courses is not the best option and does not maximize a student entering and completing the gateway courses in 1 year. So that really is the punchline here. So as we think about that reality, right, that even though this is a snapshot in time looking at fall 2019, as we then look into the broader set of data for fall 2019 that is in our equitable placement dashboard, which you will see shortly, as we look at previous data and research that has taken place, we're simply not seeing evidence to contradict this conclusion. That where local placement practices result in students enrolling in pre-gateway coursework, or where students are allowed to enroll in pre-gateway coursework, results indicate that 1 year gateway course completion is not being maximized. So that's really important for us to sit with and settle with that conclusion. We do not have any evidence to date that would indicate that continued enrollment in those pre-gateway courses is the best option for our students. So what that means then is that we, the system, therefore must shift our practices to enrolling students in those important gateway courses, supporting them in those courses to ensure their completion so that we can meet the standard of AB 705 of students entering and completing in that 1 year time frame. So given those very important realities and the results of this data collection that you've seen here, all of the data and research that has come before this, and the data that you will see displayed in the equitable placement dashboard, the Chancellor's Office is going to lean fully into the authority that we have been given to require districts to shift their placement practices and methods to ensure full implementation of AB 705, both the letter and the spirit. So shifting placement practices per the letter of the law, but ensuring and maximizing students' enrollment and success in gateway courses as we lean into the spirit and the intent of the law. So here's what we plan to do. And of course, Board of Governors, we welcome your questions, your comments, and of course want your feedback on this plan of action. So all colleges will be sent a memo about their results and what they are now required to do. For our 7 colleges that are fully implementing, we will commend them and spend some time with those colleges to find out how they accomplished this. What were the conversations they had among the leadership on their campus? What were the conversations they had among their faculty? How did they make this transition? So really delving into the practices that those colleges have been able to implement so that we can identify models and templates and best practices that we can proliferate across the system. For that group of 29 colleges where data was submitted, but the sample size was too small, we're cross-referencing those colleges against other data sources to understand which category they will fall in. Do they fall into the category of the 7 colleges that are fully implementing, or do they fall into this next category of colleges that are going to need to submit a transition plan to our office? So for the majority of our colleges, 79, and we'll see where the 29 fall, colleges are going to be required to submit a transition plan this fall, detailing how the college will achieve full AB 705 implementation by fall of 2022. That is essential. All right, again, looking back at all the data, even the high level overview we gave of data today, it's clearly indicating to us that ensuring that students enroll and complete the gateway courses is best for students, is ultimately then best for our colleges, and our college's outcomes is what's going to help us to move the needle in fulfilling the goals of the Vision for Success. And so we're going to lean into this work and ask our colleges to have the necessary conversations they need to have locally to get to full implementation. We will allow this option for an addendum where colleges can submit data for any programmatic subset of students for whom they can demonstrate and sort of prove that yes, one-year completion is being maximized. And what we mean by a programmatic subset, right? It couldn't just be sort of a random smattering of students for whom that might be true, but is there some sort of program or intervention that the college is running for a specific group of students where that program or intervention does include some level of below transfer level enrollment, but they're able to demonstrate that for those students, this does lead to them entering and completing the gateway courses in 1 year. So we will allow colleges an opportunity to demonstrate that if such a subgroup exists. So I want to pause there for comments, questions, responses before we transition to Dr. Hetz and the equitable placement dashboard.
So thank you for that presentation, Dr. Lowe. I see 2 hands up, so I'll start with Board Member Grande and Board Member Shaw.
Thank you so much, President Haynes. And thank you, Vice Chancellor Lowe, for the presentation. I have been anxiously anticipating today's presentation and slideshow since it had been mentioned at the ASCCC Curriculum Institute, and we have heard the information in a variety of sources hinting to the presentation today. So thank you very much. I just have 2 questions relating to the information that was presented so far with the statistics. And the first one deals with high school GPA band. I was wondering if you could clarify for me, are we using overall high school GPA only on the A through G criteria for graduation, or are we only looking at high school GPA relative to English and math placement? That's the first question, then I'll give you the second one.
Thank you, Member Grande. That is a great question. I'm going to have Dr. John Hetz answer that question on the specifications around our GPA disaggregations.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. This is actually a very interesting research question that we actually spent probably 6 to 8 months working on way back when we first started this work. We use the overall high school GPA for all of the courses that are available for the student. Turns out that that's the most predictive, that when you use smaller subsets, you occasionally may get a little bit of benefit from using a more targeted subset, but you lose the benefit to it being a much more unstable subset, right? So you have a student who might only have 2 math courses. That math-specific GPA could be more useful, but it turns out that having information from how they did across all of their courses and all of their instructors tends to be much more predictive than that targeted math GPA, and the same thing with A through G. So we went through a lot of those different permutations to see which would be the most effective and the strongest predictor. And it turns out overall high school GPA is the best one. And just to be clear, we also then use the last math course and how they did in it as part of the establishment of the high school GPA bands in mathematics discipline. So there is some additional benefit there that we do pick up and is included in the differentiation between the different bands.
Thank you. That now leads to my second question. And we saw the completion rates and the phenomenal increase for both English and math. My question is, how does that also transition to our success rates in the same complement of courses? So are we finding that high school students who were successful initially in their English classes in high school are also finding success in their transfer level English, and the same analysis for math?
Great question also. So overall, start here and then have Dr. Hetz jump in. So overall, when we look at success rates in our English and math courses, we are seeing increases there as well. But I'll let Dr. Hetz jump into some of those nuances.
There's a long list of nuances there, so maybe I won't jump into all of them. Generally, what we're seeing is that we see the type of success in the courses that we would expect based on students' performance in high school. So you can roughly imagine that there's a, give or take, it's about of a 0.7 difference on GPA for where a student did in high school to how they'll do in college. So a student with a 2.7 GPA in high school is roughly going to land around 2.0 to 2.1. And you can see that that's where a lot of our rules started out as a consequence of that, right? And so we see that holding up. So there's two separate things that we have to keep track of, right? One is the success rate in the first course that students attempted, and then whether or not they successfully complete the sequence. And so the success rates are very much in line with what we predicted. They are going to be a little bit lower at transfer level because more students are starting there. However, in every case, for every group, for every population where we've been able to disaggregate, students are much more likely to complete that gateway course if they start there, especially with support, than if they start lower. They might have a higher success rate in that lower course, right? We could give everyone a very high success rate by putting them in a very low course, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that students are making progress meaningfully towards the educational outcomes that they are seeking. And when we balance those things, we are finding a very good balance right now. We need to go back to one of the things that Dr. Lowe brought up. We really need to implement more support courses across our system for students to try and close some of that gap in success rates in their first course. But generally speaking, it's pretty well in line with what was predicted.
Thank you both for answering the questions.
So the next person is Member Shaw, and then we have a Member Escobar Carrillo who has a question as well. Member Shaw.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe, and your team for everything that you do. Just a simple question, because I'm competing with a gardener out here. How are the Black and African American students faring in this process?
No, thank you for that question, Member Shaw. And so again, you saw a brief snippet of data that we delved into in much more detail in January. And so some of those specific disaggregations can be seen in that item. So overall, right, all boats are rising, right? So we see similar increases in access as well as completion for our Black and African American students. However, the equity gaps persist. Right. So when I talked about that we've made great progress, but AB 705 implementation is not something we can consider done. There's still much work to be done. One of the most important elements of that work is that equity gaps still persist. So while AB 705 has had a positive impact overall on our African American students, as it has for all student subgroups, in the increases in access to transfer level courses and the completion of those transfer level courses, we still see that disproportionate impact. We still see those differences in performance as we compare our African American students to some of our other student groups.
Yes, I remember that presentation that was given by the consultant at that meeting. So what are your thoughts as to why they exist?
Oh, that is a complicated question, Board Member Shaw. I think so many things, right? Part of what we will need to lean into is what we're talking about today, which is full implementation, right? We are very concerned in particular by what we saw in the CAP report, this correlation, this association with the number of Black and Latinx students at a college, and then the number of below transfer level courses that are being offered, right? That is a very concerning association that we see there. So we know that there's still some elements in some pockets in our system of still leaning into these historical structural barriers. So part of what the solution is full implementation of AB 705, fully dismantling those structural barriers and seeing our practices change. I think another one of the solutions, I can't say this definitively now, but I would venture to say that we would likely see a similar correlation where there are high populations of Black and Latinx students and probably less of an investment in concurrent support, whether those that be tutoring or concurrent courses. So I think that's another solution, is really leaning into the sort of support that research is already indicating is what students need. And then it gets into that last piece, I think, Board Member Shaw, that I was talking about at the very start. That part of what this work is about is really about the classroom environment, curriculum, and pedagogy, ensuring equity and culturally responsive classrooms, curriculum, and pedagogy is also going to be essential for the support of our African-American students, just to name a few. But of course, that's a long-standing issue for which we need a multi-pronged approach for how we're really going to close those equity gaps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Escobar Carrillo, you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for the presentation. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about implementation and maybe technical assistance that are provided to the number of schools and colleges that are going to need to develop supplemental plans. I think that's really important, but it's pretty clear that we have a long way to go to really realizing, I think, the vision for success and the work done around AB 705. So I'm just curious how you all are thinking about the work that will happen between now and when people submit plans. I assume there will still be some back and forth even when people submit the plans where you'd want to provide some additional technical assistance or support. But I mean, do you all have the team to help with that? Because it feels like a pretty big endeavor, but a really important one. So I'm just curious how you all are thinking about that whole process, both internally managing it, but also providing the support to the colleges that are going to need it when they submit their plans.
So thank you for that. So a few things here, and then I'll save the rest of my comments. So we will lean into and sort of close out this spotlight talking about what's going to happen in fall of 2021 and what our core priority milestones are going to be, one of which is around professional development and technical assistance. Right. So one of the things that I mentioned, we know that great work is taking place across our system on AB 705 implementation. Again, we did an initial culling of those early implementers. You'll see a lot of that in the equitable placement toolkit that already exists, but continuing that work, really turning to the field, turning to those strong implementers who have been very successful in implementation and gathering from them their promising practices. Samples and templates so that we can provide that to the rest of the field. Collaborating with various entities for professional development. There's a Professional Development Math Institute specifically that we've been supporting, will continue to support in the upcoming year, really focused on the increasing number of faculty that were teaching behavioral statistics and supporting them in culturally relevant pedagogy and things of that sort. Collaborating with IEPI and other entities really around those core things. One, infrastructure, technical assistance, how are colleges making this change, but then also really that classroom and faculty professional development around how to iterate practices to support students and ensure their success in these classes. But we'll dig a bit more into our fall 2021 priorities after we take a look at the equitable placement dashboard.
Thank you for that. I see that Vice President Costa has her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. This is really quite interesting. And I'm wondering, when you look at the GPA bands that you've described and kind of the lowest GPA students, do you have a sense of kind of the resources? Because I'm just assuming, but maybe this isn't correct. They need more supports. They need more concurrent support systems. So, I think, my concern is that, that might be, a lot of cost for the districts. I don't know that. Do we have a sense of across those GPA bands, kind of what our colleges need basically to get them to the college level or transfer level courses?
So Dr. Hicks, I'll let you speak to if we, what data we might have there around GPA band and supports. And then in terms of cost, right, I'll sort of highlight my colleague, Dr. Navarrete, coming up after me, really talking about the budget planning and our budget asks, right? We do want to remember that AB 705 was an unfunded mandate. And our colleges have been rallying to do the work, to find the resources so that they can implement. But we'll certainly want to keep that in mind as we're talking about the next budget cycle in places where we might want to be requesting some funding. But Dr. Hetz, any insights around GPA band and support?
So that's one of the things that's on our long-term research agenda, is to really get a sense of which types of supports are more effective. The research to date, there's actually a randomized controlled trial that Texas did that suggests that the different types of support aren't differentially effective. That is, they all have what appears to be the same type of positive impact on students' completion. And it doesn't seem to be specifically related to what students may or may not be bringing into the classroom with them. I think the bigger question that we have that does come out from some of the research that's connected with this is that when you start to look at the students who struggle in courses where they are getting supported, where they have a concurrent or co-requisite support class, it's typically students who are struggling across all of their curriculum, and it's often not specifically related to curriculum, right? And so this actually ties back to some of our bigger basic needs questions, right? That a lot of the reasons that our students may be leaving courses where they have support is that they're not just leaving that course or struggling in that course, they are struggling to make college work under the circumstances. And so I think there is a bigger question of the broad array of support that a lot of the students that we serve need in order to be successful in college, and how do we capture all of that. But for the curricular support with the classroom, what we've found so far, not us specifically, but generally in the research, is that the approach, the different approaches that colleges may take seem to be similarly effective, because it's the structural change that really matters here, which is providing students the opportunity at transfer level with support. And then figuring out what support might work best for students may come down to a couple of different things, right? We may have to think carefully about what the individual college's structure is right now. And so some types of support may fit better with different existing college culture or college curricular structure. But then the question is, are there ways we might be able to more specifically try different types of support for different students? But to date, we don't have anything that suggests that it might work differently for different students. One of the things I think is always important to note when this comes up is whether or not students with who have lower high school GPA, there are a couple of questions about those students. One is, I would just remind everyone that that is a much smaller set of our students than most people believe. When you ask people how many students or what the average GPA of a community college is, they typically underestimate that quite a bit, right? So we are not serving the lower half of high school graduates. That is not what's happening. We serve a pretty substantial range of the student body that comes from high school and students who come after delay. And most of them are actually quite capable. And so it's always important to lay down that marker, because people want to lean into, we have so many of those students, and that's really just not true. And then the second question is always around, what is the best outcome for those students? And so even for those students, when they may have lower success rates in transfer level, there's no question that that's going to happen. They're coming at a lower level of performance. They probably have a variety of different needs that they may be bringing with them. This method, where we are providing them support at the transfer level, is more effective at getting them to the gateway courses they need to succeed in college.
And if I could just add, at the risk of prolonging this point, but I think it's an important point. This question about enough resources, because the reality is we can say from now into eternity that there is never enough resources, and some of that may be true. But if you consider, the kinds of resources that we need more resources that flow directly to students for basic needs. Those are the kinds of resources that I think we need most. The colleges themselves, at the risk of getting a few snarls at what I'm about to say, have a substantial amount of resources in their budgets for this, for these kinds of interventions. And the second thing I'd say, part of this is shifting resources from pre-gateway courses to the kinds of gateway courses and support structures that we're talking about here. And then maximizing the resources that they have through the SEA funds, maximizing the use of the student-centered funding formula. Those elements are there for every college to maximize.
Sounds like you work for finance now, Chancellor.
Yes, I've been around too many finance folks for the last 15 years.
Thank you for that, Chancellor. You said a few things that I was going to say, but I do have a sort of a statement, and then it really actually is ultimately a question, and that is, given all of the information that you've just shared with us, would it not be advantageous for colleges to move to where they accept all 100 students, all 100% of the students in terms of placing into transfer level, if indeed that is sort of their ultimate goal? And that appears not to be happening. What appears to be happening is that at some point there's these choices that are given to students once again, or there is a default in that a student has then a choice to make relative whether they're going to go into a prerequisite math or English course. And so for most of those students, that's where they get caught. And so if in a perfect world, John, in a perfect world, would it not be better to do what a very few of the colleges are doing, which is accepting all of their students with an assumption that they're going to go through a transfer level math and English course, and then either placing them, and then there's a second part. Would it not be better to have a default enrollment, where students would then have to default out of the course as opposed to making an affirmative decision to go into this course in their first semester or first year?
So this is the moment where many of you are going to wish you had more one-handed researchers. If you guys remember the old Harry Truman quote, this is on the one hand and on the other hand kind of question. I think generally speaking, President Haynes, I think that framework is a powerful one and the most likely one to lead us to where we need to go as a system. There are some caveats to that, however. We have a subset of students who are English language learners.
Yes.
We have a subset of students who are dual enrollment students who might be 9th graders or 10th graders in high school who may not be prepared to go directly into transfer level. And then we do have a subset of students who have not completed high school. And so there are some nuances around how that would work. But that framework, however, would be the most powerful way for us to move our system forward productively for all of our students, and would really help set up the right incentives to develop the supports for students at transfer level. One of the nice models that a couple of our colleges have implemented is essentially something similar to there's a process by which if you go to a hospital and check yourself out against medical advice, right? So some colleges have implemented something like that. So we are advising you to take this transfer level course. This is all the evidence that suggests that you should do that. If you want to take a course that's below transfer level, here's the form you have to complete to indicate that you understand and we've explained it to you and you're doing this essentially against our educational advice. I think that kind of system is one that would maintain the choice of students, for those who really want to take a slower pathway, but not allow it to happen as a default. And I think that's the challenge. One of the things I think we run into in a lot of these cases is easy is the siren song of education, right? And it's very easy for people to think it would be easier for me to take this course. I've already taken it. And so it's an easy A or an easy, I won't have to pay that much attention. And those things turn out not to be as true as we hope. And it allows life to get in the way, right? And there's something that's really in the educational universe, there's something fundamentally demotivating for having to do the same work over again. It changes how you're interacting with the work. It's changing how you're engaging as a person. And that has real consequences for students' trajectories. But that ease, that felt ease, like this course is going to be easy, is a massive attractor. It's an attractor for our students. It's also an attractor for our faculty, right? It's easier to teach students who have already had that course. It's much easier. But we really need to lean into what we need to do is challenge students at their level of capacity and provide them the scaffolded support to do the work there, right? And that's like, there is decades of work on that in educational psychology, and that's where we want to land, because that's where the joy and the intentional kind of like approach to education really lives, that engages students in a lifelong journey of the mind.
Thank you for that response. I have another follow-up question, and it goes to pedagogy and curriculum. And I did hear you, Dr. Lowe, when you said that there's going to be a significant amount of professional development that is going to be offered to faculty and staff, because there is more than just faculty. There's also classified that participate significantly relative to our students. But I guess my question goes to the challenges of sort of pushing down to the classroom level, because that's where teaching happens. And then really, I don't want to use the word exposing, it's a poor word, but recognizing some of the challenges that and I'm thinking of algebraic math. I'll just tell you what my visual is, because I was not great in math. And thank goodness we did not have the systems in place that made the requirement that you had to have, algebraic math in order to transfer back in my day. But let me say that how can it be assured that those who need the professional development can actually get the professional development? Because all of our, so speak to me about how do we open up these courses in a way that, and we can speak about English, but I really am concerned about the math piece, because I think there are many students, myself included, that was very fearful about math. And so there's quantitative reasoning. And I guess part of that question is, to what extent are our college campuses offering that in the departments where our students are more likely, because not everybody's going to be a math major or a science major. What does that piece look like relative to the work that's being done around AB 705?
No, thank you for that, President Haynes. I think you're really hitting on something that's very essential in terms of what is the type of professional development that is needed for us to start to see these gaps close. And it's really getting into some of the things that Dr. Hetz was just talking about, which is often missing in our professional development. We focus so much on ensuring, often in professional developments, teaching faculty particular techniques for how to explain, this particular equation, or how to help students understand probability. We don't spend enough time really leaning into these educational psychology concepts about what does it mean to create an environment in which students learn and thrive. And in particular, I think we will see this across higher education, but it's particularly pervasive in math in the STEM fields, right? This notion that you either have it or you don't, right? This very sink or swim, you either deserve to be here or you do not. And we've perhaps experienced in our own collegiate experiences, right? You come into a classroom and faculty say, look to your left, look to your right, half of you won't be here, right? This whole notion that our job is to weed you out, right? And to identify who is the able and who is the unable, very pervasive in all of higher ed, but in particular in math and the STEM fields. So a lot of the work that needs to be done, I believe, on professional development is more that mindset work, all right? And really shifting faculty's understanding of what their role is, that you are not primarily a purveyor of content, right? You are working with human beings. Hearts and minds are at stake here, lives and people's futures are at stake here, and that your job is really to be a facilitator of learning and mastery and advancement, not just of content, but of thinking skills, right? And speaking skills and ability to learn, and really delving into more of those ed psych content around professional development, I think is one of the things that's very much needed and very much missing.
Do you have anything else to add, Dr. Hetz?
Oh, that's a dangerous question, President Haynes. A very strong +1 to what Dr. Lowe just said. I think that what you led with, having done this work with a lot of people across the system, the number of people, including people who have gotten through courses like Calc 3, differential equations, linear algebra, like advanced math, who openly, publicly, immediately identify as bad at math, is a big part of the challenge that we face, right? It's this belief that we have seeded throughout generations of students that some people can do math and some people cannot. And that's just not supported by the facts. But once students believe that, right, we face significant challenges in changing their minds. And so this is a real opportunity for us to lean back into math is a learnable skill that you develop over time like any other skill. There are many things that we were bad at when we started them, right? I was very bad at riding a bicycle. And I can't necessarily explain how I do it now, but I do it without thinking and quite easily, right? So I think that's part of our journey. The other thing that I wanted to dive back into a little bit, just to clarify, or not clarify, add to something that Dr. Lowe said about our looking into our classrooms with respect to where some of our equity gaps may be coming from. One of the sets of work that we are seeing right now is some of those equity gaps are differential across our faculty within institutions. And so this is going to be an important part of our DEI journey, where faculty, departments are going to have to look carefully at what's happening in their classrooms if we're going to make progress on helping all of our students complete these essential gateway courses, right? If they can't do that honestly and self-critically, there will be a time where we are going to be forced to do things differently, I suspect.
So thank you for that. And I see Board Member Williams' hand up, and I'm going to release my floor here in just a second. What you just talked about in terms of DEI and especially the in the math area is critically important. What I was going to add to that is this EEO portion of how do we make certain that we are embedding DEI principles and values. We've got to ask different questions of the applicants. I think that we're so focused in on their expertise in their subject area that we forget that the way that the inroad into the relationship isn't necessarily the subject area. It is about how a person connects with another person in the classroom, and to what extent they can open themselves up to a certain level of vulnerability, but also a certain level of contact. And so what you pointed to is just critically important as we look at all of this is very holistic relative to that. And so I want to thank you so much for your responses. And with that, I want to allow our board member Williams to ask this question or make a statement.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Something that John was saying made me think of one of the reasons why I serve as a trustee. And so empathy. I had a bad experience in high school and just thought that I couldn't learn algebra because I had a teacher that it screwed my head up. And I avoided algebra all the way to my bachelor's program. And I was about to walk and I had to take algebra. And it was a teacher at Riverside Community College because I didn't understand what a variable was. I didn't understand it. And he said, it's a placeholder. And I almost cried because it was just that simple. And he spent time with me after class until I got it. And then, now like all that time, I thought that I just could not do math. But it was because of the time that he spent and his whole approach to showing me how to do it and explaining it was, I think, the difference. That was just the biggest difference. And then I got it. And but I just wanted to share that because of what you said.
So thank you. If there's not any, I don't see any other hands up. I want to thank you so much for this presentation. There's still a lot of work to be done. And I look forward to the responses after the data goes out to the colleges. And I'm hoping that in the future, we will have another report on the movement system-wide with all 115 of our colleges. So thank you again. There is time for public comment, of course. So is there any public comment on this item?
The public comment period for item 6.1 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature. If you're calling to the meeting, use *9. Member of the Chancellor's office will call on you and allow you to address the board. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. If you have submitted a written comment within the deadline, we ask that you be mindful of everyone's time and refrain from raising your hand to make a verbal comment. We have received written comments on this item, and I will now turn it over to Christina to provide additional details.
President Haynes, for information and reports, item 6.1, written comments were received by the Campaign for College Opportunity, the Education Trust West, the California Acceleration Project, and Public Advocates. The comments have been uploaded onto the board docs agenda. With us today on Zoom are those who wish to provide live verbal comments on this item. My colleague Gary will call on those to make their verbal comments to the board. Thank you.
We do have quite a few hands raised. So we will start with Sasha Renee Perez. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Great, can you hear me?
We can.
Great, thank you. Good morning, President Haynes and Board of Governors members. My name is Sasha Perez, Public Affairs Manager at the Campaign for College Opportunity. I want to thank the Chancellor's Office and the Board of Governors for championing the implementation of this historic and transformative law. The campaign applauds your unwavering commitment to implementing AB 705 with fidelity and urgency. We come to you today to urge the Board of Governors to provide additional direction to all 116 community colleges to fulfill their affirmative duty under AB 705 to maximize the probability of a student entering and completing math and English courses within 1 year by limiting enrollment in remedial education courses. We support revising regulations to ensure that AB 705 implementation places student success at the forefront while remaining consistent with the intent of the law, specifically by ensuring that the regulations limit enrollment, not just placement, in remedial courses to only those students that are determined to be highly unlikely to succeed in transfer level courses, and requiring that colleges' placement models identify and proactively provide concurrent support at the transfer level, such as prerequisite courses to students who need them in order to maximize completion. Since AB 705's 2017 passage, Colleges had 2 years to prepare for full implementation and were granted an additional 2-year grace period to study local implementation. 4 years later, the resulting validation reports were meant to detail how successful colleges were in implementing the standards of AB 705. In January, you heard compelling reports of the power of equitable placement and the dramatic gains in transfer level course completion, especially for Black and Latinx students. Today, we heard from Dr. Lowe that local validation studies mirror statewide studies. Students who intend to transfer are enrolled in remedial courses, either as a result of local placement practices or voluntarily, does not maximize their throughput. Because colleges were not able to produce evidence of their validation reports that remedial enrollment meets the standards of AB 705, we believe the recommendations we have brought forth will increase equitable placement reform. The evidence is clear. Colleges that enroll students in remedial courses are not meeting AB 705 standards. Now, more than ever, is the time to mandate full compliance with the law. We thank you again and look forward to continuing engagement as you work toward full implementation. Thank you.
Next, we have the account is simply students making a change. I'll let them introduce themselves. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marjorie Blenn, and I'm speaking for myself. I don't know why I'm on this account. I apologize for that. So I have 3 statements and 1 question. The first statement is for John Hetz. Students do think that these remedial courses are easier, yet because the faculty and teachers believe that they're easy too, they become condescending, reinforcing the imposter syndrome that BIPOC community already feel. My second comment is to Eloy. I'm on my last semester at San Francisco State to obtain my bachelor's degree in sociology. And let me tell you, this degree means not even half of what my community college degree meant because of all the financial hardship and barrier I had to overcome as a student of color in the community college system. Second, this question is for Dr. Lowe. Is there any research on non-traditional students, veteran foster youth? I see that most of the research directs to high school students. And from my experience on advocating for AB 705 since 2018, I have realized that we do not have research or data that encompass everybody as far as AB 705, even the people that go for an AA or a certificate, because some of those classes do require transfer level just to fulfill a requirement for a certificate or an AA or to transfer out. Do we have any data where it talks about age group, race, background, how long have they been out of community college, when they're coming back? I just want to know, and the last thing is this data that the college is providing being audited independently to make sure there's accuracy on the data regarding high school students? That's my second question. And that's my last thing. I don't really have anything written. Y'all know my style. I speak my mind, I listen, and I just try to provide critical thinking question when it comes to AB 705. As a student that been part of the system, went through all the barriers and hoops, and understand the importance of allowing our students to go into transfer level to maximize their capacity and have a more diverse workforce, because thanks to that, a lot of students will be able to go with degrees into a lot of the California workforce, which we need right now during this pandemic. Thank you.
Next, we have Jayton Stevens. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Thank you, President Haynes and members of the board. And thank you, Dr. Lowe, for your thoughtful presentation this morning. My name is Jayton Stevens, and I am a senior staff attorney with Public Advocates, a civil rights law firm that challenges the systemic causes of poverty and racial discrimination in education, housing, transportation equity, and climate justice. I join in the comments made by my colleagues and encourage the board to move to full accountability for implementation of AB 705 today. I would like to emphasize the importance of amending the regulations to ensure that colleges are clear about their affirmative duties under AB 705. The scope of AB 705 is a broad one. It creates an affirmative duty on behalf of colleges and districts to maximize the probability that a student will enter and complete a transfer level math and English course within 1 year. In other words, AB 705 requires that colleges take active steps to create the greatest possible odds that a student will enter a transfer level course and complete within 1 year. And the legislature tasked this body with ensuring the colleges fulfill this affirmative duty. Yet the current regulations do not yet go far enough to ensure that colleges meet the broad scope of AB 705, and we are asking the board amend the regulations in 2 key ways. First, the current regulations only address restricting placement of students in remedial courses to those who are highly unlikely to succeed. The operating mandate of AB 705 is that colleges maximize the probability that students enter and complete transfer level courses. This encompasses both placement and enrollment. Yet there are still many colleges that are enrolling a significant number of students in remedial courses without any showing that they are highly unlikely to succeed. And as has already been laid out by the Chancellor's Office today and by my colleagues, the data is very clear that enrollment in transfer level courses is what maximizes student completion. Thus, in order to ensure that colleges' placement methods are guiding students to placements that maximize the probability of entering and completing transfer level courses, we are asking the regulations be amended to make it clear that colleges' placement methods shall not authorize enrollment in remedial courses unless the student is shown to be highly unlikely to succeed. Second, the current regulations do not address the need for college placement methods to provide concurrent supports at the transfer level. The data is also very clear that concurrent supports, in particular co-requisite courses, significantly increase the probability of student completion. Thus, we are also requesting that the regulations be amended to require colleges proactively provide concurrent supports to students at the transfer level.
Thank you for your comments. It's time.
We believe
our next comment is Dr. Jennifer Vega-Lacerna. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Okay, sorry. Good morning, Board President Hayes, board members, and Chancellor Oakley. I'm Jennifer Vega-Lacerna, President of the California Community College Chief Instructional Officers. I'm making this statement in support of the current AB 705 legislation with a focus on the successful completion of math, English, and credit ESL for students who intend to transfer. AB 705 reinforces the need for community colleges to design a support infrastructure for math, English, and credit ESL students to equitably optimize student success. The Chief Instructional Officers have supported these changes and have provided impactful leadership for these reforms. We affirm our college's commitment to equitable placement, counseling support, and direct placement in college-level math and English courses, the offering of support courses and services, and to rise to the challenge of meeting the needs of our students of color who face the greatest disproportionate impact related to math and English success. We understand that the 2019 data does not show overall system-wide favorable data towards the implementation needed for true change. However, as we come out of the pandemic and welcome students back to our campuses, we are committed to accomplishing the directives and intent outlined in the legislation. The vision of AB 705 is not only about placement, but about placement, enrollment, and student support for maximum success. The CIOs stand with those who believe that equity and success for our student lies at the heart of the work we do. We recommit our support for AB 705 and affirm that the bill sufficiently addresses the intended results. We applaud the work of the Chancellor's Office on these efforts. In order to promote improved student achievement and elimination of equity gaps by way of AB 705, we commit to the following: continued partnership with the Chancellor's Office to sustain implementation efforts, review policies and practices at colleges system-wide, and support change efforts at colleges whose data and AB 705 implementation fall behind the requirements and expectations of the bill. Continued partnership with the Academic Senate of California Community Colleges in order to sustain implementation efforts. Support for professional learning opportunities for faculty and administrators that includes guided pathways alignment and contextualized general education reform supported by AB 705, and peer support for CIOs at community colleges with lagging indicators based on initial research findings. We believe AB 705 is foundational to support the Chancellor's vision for success and the intent of the Governor's Recovery with Equity
30
report.
seconds.
The CIOs actively promote and endorse the equitable policies and practices that this bill brings to the forefront. Thank you very much.
Next, we have, I believe the last name is Henson. I just see the email address as that's how the Zoom account is configured. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Henson. I teach English at Butte College. I also do research for the California Acceleration Project. I'm here today to attest that starting students in transfer level courses with co-requisite support if needed is key to student success. Last semester, I taught Butte College's co-requisite model of transfer level English. The course was completely online during a global pandemic in a rural area that is one of the poorest in the state, still reeling from the campfire, so we didn't expect strong results. However, across all sections of the class, a majority of the students who enrolled, about 60%, succeeded. Prior to AB 705, many of these same students would have been required to take anywhere from 1 to 4 remedial courses before being allowed to even take transfer level English. One of my spring semester students was typical of many of the students who take co-requisite English. A Black woman, she had gone to a continuation high school and worked her way up to become a supervisor in her workplace and a successful business owner. But she lacked confidence in her writing. She didn't need a remedial course. She needed support and practice. And with these, she was able to earn an A in the class. She was lucky that at Butte College, there are no remedial English courses. Otherwise, I am certain that she would have enrolled in one to give her the foundation she felt she needed, but which she was able to get in a co-requisite class. It concerns me that other students aren't so fortunate and that uneven, inequitable implementation is hurting students and driving racial inequality. In still getting there, a report commissioned by public advocates, the California Acceleration Project, found that as of fall 2020, 69 colleges still offered more than 20% of their introductory sections at the remedial level in math, and 9 colleges were doing so in English. This summer, I've been interviewing folks about AB 705 implementation, and I've discovered that some colleges are even trying to put more sections of remedial courses back into their schedules. Even though research hasn't identified any groups whose completion benefits from starting in a remedial course, many people at these colleges believe that students need remedial coursework. Unfortunately, as we know, Black and Latinx students disproportionately attend colleges that have maintained large remedial math offerings. Colleges serving over 2,000 Black students have double the rate of weak math implementation. And given these findings, I urge the board to consider revising Title V regulations consistent with the petition from public advocates to ensure that students' rights under AB 705 are honored regardless of the college they attend. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Dr. Katie Hearn. You have control of your mic and can address the board. I don't believe we can hear you. I do see that your mic is unmuted, so it may be a technical issue over there. Are you able to hear us, Dr. Hearn? Okay. I will come back to Dr. Katie Hearn. Our next comment is Sebastian Chabard. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Great. Thank you so much, and great pronunciation of my name. So good morning, board members. My name is Sebastian Chobard, here on behalf of the California EDGE Coalition. EDGE is a statewide advocacy organization that unites business, labor, social justice, education, and workforce organizations with a mission to advance state workforce policies that create economic mobility for all Californians. First and foremost, we want to thank the Chancellor's Office and the board for all your hard work and leadership on this transformative law, and are grateful to your commitment to closing student racial equity gaps. As we've seen, the ongoing pandemic has unveiled countless racial and economic inequities within California's education and workforce system. To add to these inequities, the lack of AB 705 implementation has led to an increase of students of color enrolled in more remedial courses, delaying their program completion and discouraging many to continue their career goals. Therefore, EDGE is in strong support of a more clear and transparent implementation process of AB 705 law and regulations. We look forward to further reviewing the dashboard and the reported data, as well as working with the Chancellor's Office and our stakeholder partners to strengthen AB 705 implementation and ensure that our California students and adult learners are supported throughout their education and career goals. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the space to speak today.
Our next public comment is Denise Castro. You have control of
Hello,
your mic and
Board
can
of
address the
Governors. Hello, Board of Governors and Chancellor's Office. My name is Denise Castro. I'm a policy analyst at Education Trust West. I want to begin by thanking the Board of Governors and Chancellor's Office for being equity champions committed to moving the needle on equity issues, including remedial education reform. As covered in item 6.1, colleges have had 2 years to study their local implementation and reported on whether their local implementation practices comply with AB 705 and the current regulations. As Dr. Lowe presented, colleges' result of local placement practices does not maximize throughput, concluding that remedial enrollment does not maximize throughput for our students. As Dr. Lowe said it best, we have a moral obligation and must shift practices to meet the standard of AB 705. Local and statewide data is aligned. Students do better when enrolled in transfer level math and English courses compared to remedial courses. Also, statewide and national data also find co-requisite supports in transfer level courses produce better outcomes than remedial courses. And to ensure that AB 705 is implemented and transforms the lives of students as it was intended to, we urge the Board of Governors and Chancellor's Office to provide direction that colleges should not enroll students in remedial courses. We support establishing a transition plan for full implementation of the law, requiring colleges to shift their placement practices to transfer level courses and co-requisite support. And as we move away from remedial courses and focus more on co-requisite support in the transfer level, we ask you to center the DEI work in the classroom and to connect the recent action on the equal employment opportunity by the Chancellor's Office that Chancellor's Office is leading to AB 705. And lastly, we ask to revisit regulations to ensure that AB 705 is implemented and aligns with the intent of the law. We want to thank you, the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor's Office for their commitment, and we look forward to continuing to partner. Thank you.
Our next comment is Dolores Davison. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good morning, Board President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the Board of Governors. My name is Dolores Davison. I am the President of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. The Academic Senate for California Community Colleges has been working since 2018 through the Guided Pathways Task Force, the AB 705 ESL Implementation Group, and other committees and task forces in taking a student-centered, holistic approach to support the California Community College system and local colleges with full and robust AB 705 implementation and evaluation. This has meant working toward maximizing the probability that students enter and complete appropriate transfer level or college level English and mathematics courses in a one-year time frame, while simultaneously designing clearly defined pathways and onboarding programs to close persistent equity gaps in course success, retention, and persistence. This effort has also helped to build student self-agency through student-centered onboarding and wraparound support. We appreciate and trust in the collective wisdom of our partner stakeholder groups, including the Chief Instructional Officers, the Chief Student Services Officers, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, the Community College League of California, and the Chancellor's Office as we continue to move forward to embrace effective practices and make improvements in the educational opportunities and support services for all of the students in the California Community College system. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jasmine Prasad. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good morning, Board of Governors members. My name is Jasmine Prasad, the Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. 97 community colleges have not implemented AB 705 and still have students in remedial classes. As we heard today, Black and Latinx students are the most affected. Students who started in a transfer level course succeeded in 1 year compared to just 14% completing transfer level math within a year after taking one remedial course. This barrier prevents students from transferring out within the 2-year time frame. Remedial courses prevent students from enrolling in the classes needed for their major due to required prerequisites, thus making them much less likely to reach their educational goals. Being a Latinx student myself, I was put in a remedial course for English, even though I graduated high school with a 3.0 and took advanced English. I spent weeks going to the academic and records office to fill out forms and submit transcripts that proved I did not need the remedial courses. Students who feel like they need more support can use the resources on campus, such as tutors or meeting with professors during office hours. The original intent of AB 705 is to clarify regulation that will protect students from assessment, instruments, and placement policies that have very significant and serious implications for equity. Therefore, it's crucial that AB 705 is implemented on every community college campus to ensure student success and prevent them from sequences that statistically ensure failure to transfer to higher institutions. Thank you.
Our next public comment, the username is B. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. My name is Brian Daly. I'm the past student trustee at City College of San Francisco. And I just wanted to lend my support to the comments made by Pamela Haynes. Of course, Board President Haynes is always on point with these issues, but I just wanted to highlight the questions asked around defaulting placement for students, defaulting transfer level placement for students, and giving them the option to opt out and place themselves into remedial courses if that is the student's onus. And then furthermore, I want to highlight the comments made by Dr. Lowe about addressing the mindsets that faculties hold on these campuses behind being barrier keepers and gatekeepers. It is clear that these institutions do not intend to follow the letter of the law because they do not agree with the paradigm shift that the law is attempting to enact. And so while they are advocating for more funds to enact the law, it's clear that those funds will not go towards enacting these laws, will not go towards breaking barriers for students. And in my experience, funds such as these have a tendency to be supplanted and placed elsewhere. So I just want to lend my support and echo the comments made by Dr. Lowe and Board President Haynes, and that'll be all for me. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Our next public comment, the username is Gray. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Hello, so my name is Grayson Bell. I'm the program assistant here at Blue Educational Foundation. Want to thank you all for the invite for us to speak, and my comments will be very brief. In addition to everything that has been said by everyone, I don't want to reiterate too much, but I just want to say that at Blue Educational Foundation, we're based here in San Bernardino, California, in the Inland Empire region. And this is the region of students that we serve, so Riverside and San Bernardino County. Of course, we have been able to extend our service during the pandemic since we've been virtual. But one thing that we do see firsthand is how remedial courses can deter students from graduating or transferring to a four-year university, which is something that many of our students aspire to do. And while all of our students, we encourage them to seek the best post-grad, post-high school grad education or next steps, we know a lot of them deserve to be enrolled in four-year universities. And if they have to, which we do advocate as well, there should be no barriers, and there should be no barriers to education in general. So that's something that I just wanted to add in, that we do see with the populations that we work with. And we want to, we're about policy change, and anything that we can do to eliminate those barriers is what we're willing to do. So again, Blue Educational Foundation supports, and we just want the best for not only students in our region, but students globally. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Stephanie R.A. You have control of your mic and can address the board. I think we may have another technical difficulty there. Feel free to raise your hand again and we will call on you. We'll move on to the next public comment. Georgie H., you have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. My name is actually Katie Hearn. Georgie is my
Oh no. Well, that is the last public comment that we had.
Gary, I'm seeing a Danielle Zoom wait or Zoom Walt. Is that wrong?
She is with our 3C Media group.
Oh, got it.
so
Okay.
yes,
All right. Thank you.
And we just had
Actually,
another hand raised.
Yes, I think we have Dr. Hearn. Let's see.
Okay. Come on, Katie. We want to hear from you.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hooray. Thank you, Board President Haynes and members of the board. I'm Katie Hearn. Georgie H. is my daughter, which the Zoom account is apparently logged under. I'm a professor of English at Skyline College and co-founder of the California Acceleration Project. I want to start by appreciating the Chancellor's Office team and just the very hard work that they're doing to monitor and support strong implementation of AB 705. And I especially want to appreciate Vice Chancellor Lowe's emphasis on moving beyond minimal compliance with the law to full implementation with the letter and spirit of AB 705. After AB 705 became law, statewide research established that for every student group examined, completion is maximized by enrolling students directly in transfer level coursework. Since then, the evidence has only become stronger. According to the Research and Planning Group, students who begin directly in transfer level math in fall 2019 had a one-year completion rate of 60%, more than 4 times higher than the 14% completion rate among those who took one remedial course. The validation reports were colleges' opportunity to demonstrate that the statewide research did not apply to their local population. It was their chance to present data showing that enrolling students in a remedial course meets AB 705 standards. They were unable to do this. 4 years after AB 705 unanimously passed the legislature, it's time to close the loophole under which colleges can claim to, quote, place students into transfer level classes while continuing to actively steer them into remedial ones. We urge you to support the Chancellor's Office in unequivocally directing colleges to enroll students in transfer level courses and to provide concurrent support for those in lower placement bands. Further, we urge the board to adopt the revisions to Title V outlined in the demand letter by the civil rights law firm Public Advocates. These changes are needed to ensure that every California community college honors students' rights under AB 705. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the hands raised for public comment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Before we close this out, I just want to give Dr. Lowe an opportunity to conclude her presentation, if I may.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Haynes. I will do this very quickly because I know that we are short on time and that we need to proceed. So apologies, Board of Governors. We intended to give you a preview of the equitable placement dashboard. We will need to postpone that so that we can move forward. Do know that we will highlight that dashboard at our August 4th webinar. So just to close us out very quickly in terms of next steps for implementation and what you can expect to see coming out of the Chancellor's Office on your behalf. Of course, individually responding to colleges' validation results as we discussed today. Also digging into those AB 1805 templates and providing guidance based on the results we see there. Assessing fall 2020 one-year transfer course completion. And of course, we'll have to dig into the very important question of what was the impact of COVID-19. So expect future updates on that as well. We've already made plans to review and update our Title V regulations. That is a goal that was set this past June for the 5C Curriculum Committee. So we will be doing an exhaustive review of Title V for AB 705 alignment. And of course, as we talked about, providing professional development. Then for English as a second language, we will review the adoption plans and support implementation. We are reconstituting the assessment committee, which will primarily focus on evaluating ESL assessments, which do still exist in our system. Continue the research that is taking place, use all of this data and information to establish an ESL equitable placement toolkit, and of course, professional development to support implementation there as well. So I will conclude there so that we can move on to some of our other items. Really appreciate you, Board of Governors, all of your comments and questions. Thank the public for their comments and questions as well. And we'll make sure to respond to those in our next update. So thank you, President Haynes.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to item 6.2, which is the 2021-2022 adopted state budget update. And Vice Chancellor Navarrete is going to be the presenter of this item.
Good morning, members of the board, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Lizette Navarrete, Vice Chancellor for College Finance and Facilities Planning. Next slide, please. Today, I have the opportunity to provide you an update on the 21-22 state budget and the particular investments in the California community colleges. Next slide, please. And so I want to begin by laying some context of both the budget cycle, some of the processes that have taken place, and share some updates. On June 14th, the Senate and Assembly came to a bicameral agreement on the 21-22 state spending plan. Since then, the governor and legislature have been negotiating and had released a partial agreement at the end of the month. As you know, the state has been aided by the American Rescue Plan and higher than expected revenues, which means that we have additional resources in Prop 98, which go to community colleges. Yesterday, late yesterday, the governor signed the final budget agreement, which is SB 129. That will be followed by several bills that provide more implementation details. Those will be released and considered over the next 2 months. And so in my update, I will focus on community colleges. There's a lot in this budget, so I will only cover some areas, but we'll share updates about other tools and opportunities to hear more comprehensive analyses. Next slide, please. And so, as you know, the Board of Governors, along with many of our system partners and our students, we centered our advocacy on this notion of a plan for an equitable recovery and centering our work on community colleges being part of the state's plan to recover equitably. Next slide, please. So the community college budget really reflects a lot of this advocacy. And there are really 6 key areas of investment: college affordability and basic needs, diversity, equity, and inclusion, supports for institutions, pathways, workforce, and of course, pandemic recovery. Next slide, please. The community college budget really includes various elements of funding and various sources of funding. There is a combination of ongoing funds, which comprise over $750 million new Prop 98 funding ongoing, and a combination of one-time funds from federal resources, $250 million, and $1.2 billion from Prop 98. This, in addition to the pay down of $1.5 billion in debts that were owed to community colleges through deferrals. Next slide, please. So I want to focus on some of the areas that really centered on advocacy. With our partners, we put student first in all of our advocacy. And this was because we recognized that even before the pandemic, many of our students were struggling with basic needs and affordability challenges. And so our message was that we needed a long-term solution. Next slide, please. And so we're very excited that the final budget includes and reflects many of these priorities. We see $2 billion one time as a placeholder, non-98 resources for student housing. This particular investment has not been fully fleshed out, and specific details will be released in legislation later this year. There's also an investment of $115 million for one-time Prop 98 for 0 textbook cost degrees and open educational resources. The goal really is to remove textbooks as an affordability challenge for students and reduce that reliance. There's a big focus on basic needs and a great opportunity to build an ecosystem that builds basic needs and affordability around the whole student. $30 million for the establishment of basic needs centers and an additional $100 million one time for basic needs supports. Next slide, please. We're also very excited that, though it doesn't include all of our final advocacy requests, there was massive movement made on Cal Grant reform and Cal Grant modernization. The final agreement includes an expansion of the Cal Grant entitlement by providing $155 million ongoing to eliminate the age and time out of high school barrier. These were provisions that left many of our students out. And so with this new language and new policy changes that were championed by students, by the Board of Governors and many of our system partners, an additional 133,000 students will have access to the Cal Grant system. And so we look forward to releasing more details. Our advocacy will continue in this area as GPA continues to be one of the requirements, but we will continue to make that voice that concern in future advocacy and ensure that we implement this well. Next slide, please. We also really focused our efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion, recognizing that this pandemic also had us grapple with some deeply entrenched social issues and systems that we need to really address. Next slide, please. And so we are pleased to see various investments in DEI. One is investments that advance the call to action by providing $5.6 million for alignment of ethnic studies and efforts for anti-racism in curriculum that can be led by the Chancellor's Office. I also want to thank board members Aguinaldo that helped in and Anderson that helped advance advocacy for EEO programs. We see 20 million one time for new EEO best practices, providing an opportunity to align hiring opportunities with the diversification of our faculty and staff. We see an opportunity to begin to modernize our systems, especially those that engage talent to come and work for the California community colleges. 1 million to support the modernization of the CCC registry. And then at our local colleges, the Student Equity and Achievement Program has become a cornerstone of advancing local policies and efforts for DEI. So we're glad to see a base increase of 5% for this important categorical program. And I want to thank Board Member Shaw for elevating a lot of the work around disproportionately affected students and advancing Black student success. There are increases for Umoja, HBCUs, Puente Mesa, among others that you'll see in other comprehensive analyses. So we're glad to see that and we'll build off of that work in future advocacy. Next slide, please. We also have investments in our California community colleges and institutions that have a lot of work to do, that need supports to continue their Herculean efforts to support our students. Next slide, please. And so we see an investment in our faculty also aligned with the request from the Board of Governors, system budget request, supports for full-time faculty hiring, 100 million ongoing increases that would help colleges advance towards meeting the 75% target. Support for part-time as well are included through 10 million ongoing and 90 million one-time to increase part-time office hours. And then support for faculty professional development with a really key focus on cultural competency and leveraging 21st century technology and improvement of learning outcomes. Next slide, please. We also see other supports for institutions that include a 5.07% COLA that for 21-22. We're thankful for all of our partners that helped make the case to have COLA parity aligned with K-12. And we know that we need to bring back many of our students and remind them that community colleges provide an important opportunity. So we're glad to see investments in 100 million one time for retention and enrollment strategies. Part of reopening our campuses or returning to in-person, our colleges have always been open, but returning to in-person means having deferred maintenance and ensuring that we have safe and adequate facilities. 511 million one-time Prop 98 to address deferred maintenance across our system. And as I mentioned, the all-important payback of deferrals. Next slide, please. Deferrals were important to pay back because our colleges have been shouldering nearly 1.5 billion of their own local funds or funds borrowed on the open market just to make ensure they had resources to get by this year. And so we're glad that the governor and legislature are paying these back, not only paying them back, but paying them back at a much faster schedule, July and August. So we will be busy getting those resources out to college and finance facilities division. Next slide, please. And in line with the conversation that was just had around equitable placement, we know that Pathways work is critical. And so we're glad to see an investment in Guided Pathways, 50 million one-time Prop 98 to support further implementation of Guided Pathways and other ways to ensure that students have a seamless transition across their classes to successful completion. There's a 10 million one-time Prop 98 investment in common course numbering throughout our system and with encouragement to align with our four-year partners. And another policy area that is included, no resources attached, but some policy elements included around dual admission and the creation of dual admission programs for first-time freshman applicants to the CSU and the UC. This is a policy and program that will be developed further over the next months and into the next year. Next slide, please. And then we also have investments in workforce. Workforce is a key area of our community colleges, and it provides an opportunity to ensure that we are supporting those that want to be reemployed and have access to social and economic mobility. So we see a 42 million ongoing investment in strong workforce. We also see opportunities to partner regionally, not just within our agency, but recognizing that Californians that are looking for opportunities don't see the agency lines that exist here. They see, they'll go to workforce boards, they'll go to various areas. So an opportunity to better collaborate with workforce boards with 20 million one time. And an investment in competency-based education so that we can implement this effectively and support this innovative learning strategy. And then lastly, within workforce, learning aligned employment. This is a reframing of the California State Work Study Program. So it includes an investment of 200 million, again, for formerly known as a work study program, now the Learning Aligned Employment Program. And I'll, next slide, we'll just wrap up with non-98 investments and continued implementation of Prop 51 resources for capital outlay, 9 new projects and the acceleration of 8 new projects. So we're close to expending all the funds in Prop 51. Next slide, please. So I've shared a lot of information very quickly with all of you, but I want to share that later today, we will be releasing a more in-depth budget analysis that includes an overview and context of this year's budget cycle, an analysis of trailer bill that is available, some budget charts that include comparisons, glossary, deadlines of funds, and a lot more. And so please look for that. I'll post a link of where it will be available later today. Next slide. We also aren't stopping there. Our role at the Chancellor's Office really is important in ensuring that our colleges are supported as they implement this budget and the various opportunities that are presented within this budget. So we are offering an annual budget workshop on July 29th, where we will go through the budget in greater detail, spend half a day with our colleges. The audience typically is chief business officers, but this is open to anyone interested in participating, and it's free. Next slide, please. We're also working diligently to provide various tools for our colleges to utilize to support students' journey and use their investments for this purpose. So last month, we released the Student-Centered Funding Formula Dashboard Phase 2 that it provides a lot of data on how Student-Centered Funding Formula counts are functioning on our campuses and how they can find areas of greater improvement or to maximize student success. We are working for the release of Phase 3 in late 2021. Next slide, please. So encourage you to visit our site where you can find this dashboard along with a lot of other information, more details about the budget. And then with that, I'll go to the next slide and just thank you for all of your advocacy and thank our partners and for all the engagement you had in this year. We're glad to see a much better fate of resources for our colleges. Yeah, so happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I see three hands up. We'll start with Board Member Shaw. We'll go to Board Member Williams, and then Board Member Aguinaldo and Vice President Costa.
All right. Well, I want to thank the Chancellor, President Haynes, board members, and specifically Daisy Gonzalez and Lizette Navarrete for being just such extraordinary advocates in supporting and finding funds for the HBCU project, the Umoja project, and hopefully in the future for A2 MEND. You know, these 3 groups specifically help African-American students. And I think that people have to understand that on all of our campuses, African-American students are the minorities. Even Compton College only is 17% Black. So These three organizations, Umoja, A2Mend, and the HBCU Project, create sort of a nurturing atmosphere to move forward student success. So I just want to again thank them. They work so hard. We had over 1,500 students and faculty advocate for the funding of these organizations. We had the staff, we had some board members. And so again, I just want to thank them, compliment them, and just tell the chancellor that he has a knack for hiring confident, brilliant, beautiful, strong, powerful women. And look what they've done. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. All right, I think I had board member Williams next.
Yeah,
Y'all supposed to remember your spots.
That's good stuff, Member Shaw. Yeah, I also appreciate the presentation, and I think this is a great opportunity to place students at the center and really think about how all aspects of the campuses can support students overall, or the whole student. And there's $115 million in for zero cost textbooks. I want to acknowledge all of the work that has been put into developing those books, and to acknowledge the faculty who are actually using those resources. That's been a pilot that started it in 2015. And I want to press us to go further, because I really would like to see the zero cost textbooks at a scalable place. It's my desire that every general education course comes with a book. In K-12, students get a book for their house, and they get a book for their class. And I know we're different in that, it's required that that's provided for students. But we know that our students, there was a survey that costs us and our students about $1,000 to purchase textbooks overall for the year. And then you think about students who get their books late. If you get your books 2 weeks into your course, you fall drastically behind. And I think as a system, classes should come with the book. And so when I start my class, I should have my book. I had a chance to go to a school where when you log into your portal, your book is there. And I'm not saying that books have to be free, but there should be a mechanism to where every student starts their class with a book. And I'm wondering how we get at that as a basic need, as an equity, and as a student success type strategy to really increase the success around with students. Books are becoming more dynamic now. You can test through books. You can see how far a person has read along in a book. There's a lot that we can do with books. And you think about, our 1.9 million students, how many ever students we have, how do we begin to use the purchasing power of all of the California students to, one, bring down the cost of textbooks, and to make sure that books come with the class just as a standard. Like when you go into the restaurant, you expect the table to be clean. When I get my class, I should get a book with the class. It should just be the standard. And how do we do that? How do we achieve that? And again, I'm not trying to dictate what books get selected. All that I'm saying is that as a student, I should get my book with my class. And so I just want to press on that. I think this should be an issue that the BOG work on. And I think it should be a 2021 goal. By the end of 2021, at least the general education courses, students should have their books. This shouldn't be a 5-year goal. This should be a now, let's figure it out today goal and implement it by the January semester, whenever that is. Books should come with the class automatically standard. Thank you.
Got it. I think we got it, board member Williams.
Thank
But
you.
I'm gonna, the chancellor's over there kind of smiling. I'm gonna allow the chancellor to go from mute and to respond to you at this moment.
Well, we appreciate the challenge. January of 2022 definitely would be a challenge, but no, we appreciate your comments, Member Williams. I think that is certainly a sensible approach to how we support our students. Obviously, we will continue to work with our statewide academic senate and think about ways that we can encourage and support our colleges to do that, because it is, I mean, it's, we all know, and certainly evidence from those students that receive financial aid, if they do not receive their books at the beginning of class, then they fall behind immediately. So that is certainly something that we want to try to encourage. So let us think about how we can do that.
Thank you, Chancellor. So who's next to speak? I apologize. Okay, so Member Aguinaldo and then Vice President Costa. I see your hands. Board Member Tarasova and Board Member Rawlings.
Thank you very much, President Haynes. I just wanted to take a second to echo Member Williams's advocacy for the zero textbook cost. I promised my nephew on his 16th birthday that in lieu of a gift, I would be paying for his first quarter book. So I have every interest in making sure that we make books affordable for whoever may be paying for them. So I don't think he's watching right now, but he does remind me all the time that I made that commitment. So if anybody needs a birthday gift for a family member, books are always a great choice. I'd like to just extend an echoing congratulatory remark for everyone who was involved in such incredible advocacy, particularly Vice Chancellor Navarrete and the entire stellar Chancellor's Office team, but also to our incredible partners at the Governor's Office, particularly Londe Jose and our entire Recovery with Equity Task Force. You guys know who's on there. There are a lot of familiar faces, Dr. Curry being one of them, but also our very own Daisy Gonzalez. So thank you very much for your hard work and advocacy. It's very clear that if somebody followed the money to find out where our priorities are, that our priorities are in the right place. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice President Costa?
Yeah, thank you, President Haynes. Yeah, I just want to congratulate Vice Chancellor Navarrete and her team on really an extraordinary budget year. I mean, this will go in the books probably as one of the best budgets potentially ever. And I know that from a workload perspective, those years are really hard for staff. It's a lot of work when there's a lot of money on the table. So hopefully you're going to have a nice vacation. Two things, I'm really happy about the student housing money, and I know the final statutory details have yet to be worked out. And so I look forward to partnering with the Chancellor's Office on including the board when the details are finalized with stakeholders on kind of shaping what that is. I think it's a historic moment for our colleges, and we really want to make sure that we get that right. I, of course, have a very nerdy budget question for Vice Chancellor Navarrete, and it has to do with SAL, or the state appropriations limit, which is, I know there was a shift in funding sources for infrastructure to deal with the state's portion of the appropriations limit. Were there any changes that would impact our locals, SAL, or were they mostly kind of left out of it?
Great question. Yes, that's one of the areas that is, for those that are not familiar with SAL, it's the state appropriations limit, also known as the GAN limit. And so this was a big topic of conversation this year because the state reached this threshold. A couple of actions were taken. One, there was greater investment in infrastructure, which are outside the state appropriation limit. So hence why you also see a greater acceleration of 8 of our projects and a greater investment in deferred maintenance. So most of the actions included were part of the state limit. No details on the local one, but I do know that further analysis is currently taking place. We do have a request for more information because our estimation is that they will be analyzing to see if there are local impacts. So more to come on that in the next few months as more property tax and other financial details emerge from counties. But one thing I will note that the topic of the state appropriations limit will be prevalent in the 22-23 budget again.
Thank you. Member Terra Silva?
Thank you. I would like to echo the increased interest of students in the efforts to bring down the cost of the textbooks. From personal experience, I do know that zero textbook classes get enrolled first, and then the rest of the classes, students are either not picking up their books until 2 weeks into the semester or trying to navigate a scavenger hunt in attempt to rent it out for a lower price. So the question comes to mind is like, when did that become normal? This really emphasizes the point that Board of Governors member Williams made. Students should have access to their class materials and textbooks as the day one in order to make the learning experience enjoyable and meaningful rather than stressful and frustrating. And this past month, myself together with BOG member Williams, we engaged in numerous conversations with various stakeholders, and many more are coming up, where we talked about the potential solutions, and the general consensus of the students is there is a lot of interest in this topic. And currently, governor's budget highlighted the particular interest in investing in zero-cost textbook degrees to make sure that students do not face this barrier of paying hundreds of dollars each semester for the books that are not being used whatsoever. And therefore, while there is more conversation to happen in collaboration with SSCCC, we're currently looking at creating a survey for students all across the state and potentially a town hall to learn more about student experience with the textbook costs. And ultimately, Board of Governors has already shown unwavering support in promotion of programs, initiatives, and policies designed to instill the values associated with student success. So it is my hope to introduce the resolution in support of the lower textbooks cost initiative in the near future.
Thank you, Board Member Terra Silva. I agree with you. We have an important opportunity to utilize that kind of historic investment in zero textbooks and to emphasize the need and value of OER. Really look forward to partnering with students. You can share more than anyone what you want as educational consumers on campuses. An OER investment provides an opportunity to reduce our reliance on publishers, but also to empower our faculty with their own cultivated and crafted learning resources. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Rawlings.
All right, thank you, everyone. A lot of great comments already. Especially want to echo Member Shaw and the emphasis and the effort being put into the HBCUs and Umoja and A2Mend. I think all of those programs are outstanding. I also have a feeling that even given OER as an initiative on its own, I have a feeling our library reserve desks will also get a little busy with the Member Williams comments there. The main point I wanted to make, though, was first, congratulations to the governor, the legislature, and everyone involved in getting the budget passed. There are so many really outstanding things in our portion of the budget that we could go on for days about. But the point I wanted to make was about the K-12 portion, because when we really take a look at educational equity, when we take a look at addressing learning loss, when we take a look at really moving the needle on some of the DEI issues that we're concerned about, this TK through 12 budget is going to be huge, especially if we're able to sustain the funding moving forward. So, so many really outstanding things with the budget. I also echo Vice President Acosta's comments that this is really probably the best budget I've ever seen. So, in almost 30 years in higher education. So, congratulations to everyone involved, and I look forward to seeing the payoffs over the next 10 to 15 years.
Thank you. I don't see any further hands up. I just want to add my congratulations along with everyone else to the work that Dr. Navarrete and Dr. Daisy Gonzalez did, and all of your staff. I'm familiar with what happens during budget as Board Member Anderson is and Board Member Costa. And so it's amazing the work that you did, and you pulled out all the stops, and we benefited from that work in the budget that we now see system-wide. So again, thank you. I'd like to now open this up to public comment, if I may.
The public comment period for item 6.2 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature. If you are calling into the meeting, use *9. A member of the Chancellor's Office will call on you and allow you to address the board. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. We have received one written comment on this item, and I will now turn it over to Christina to provide additional details.
Thank you, Board President Haynes. For information and reports, item 6.2, there was one written comment received by the Mitchelson 20MM Foundation and has been uploaded onto the board docs agenda. With us today on Zoom are those who wish to provide live verbal comments on this item. My colleague Gary will call on those to make live verbal comments to the board.
Thank you.
Currently, we have one hand raised. Wendy Brill Winecoop, you have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good morning, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, and the members of the Board of Governors. I'm Wendy Brill Winecoop, President of the Faculty Association of the California Community Colleges. FAC is grateful for the historic budget and significantly increased revenue for our colleges. Specifically, the $200 million investment in full-time and part-time faculty funding in the 21-22 state budget will allow our colleges to increase faculty diversity, hire more full-time faculty, counselors, and librarians, and expand part-time faculty office hours, leading to greater student success. FAC has consistently advocated for this type of investment for many years because we know it benefits the students we serve. We look forward to welcoming over 1,500 new and diverse full-time faculty that should be hired as a result of this funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to keep Dr. Navarrete. I love saying that name, the doctor in front of it. We're going to keep her here because she's taking on the next item, which is 6.3, the 2022-23 system budget and legislative request process. So Dr. Navarrete, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Haynes. I'm joined in this item with my great colleague, Vice Chancellor David O'Brien. And, while it's fresh in our minds and just when you thought we would let you rest, we want to present to you a process for developing our 22-23 system budget request, as well as our legislative priorities and platform. Next slide, please. And so I wanted just to share an overview of our objective in bringing this to you. Every year, the College Finance Division and GR partner with all our system partners, students, to get a sense of where we all want to head for the next budget and legislative cycle. Our goal is to reach agreement on various areas that we can all collectively ask for that strengthens our advocacy when we speak with one voice. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just quick recap. I know we just went through the 21-22 budget, but the focus really was on restoring resources, re-envisioning financial aid, basic needs and college affordability, fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion, and focusing on workforce development. And many of these areas we saw really great investments and an opportunity to again recover with equity. So now we're turning our attention to 22-23. Next slide, please. And that means reflecting on what else can we do to continue to advance student success and to advance the vision for success. Next slide, please. And so the context for the conversations we are having with our system partners is what are some of the unmet 21-22 community college priorities? How do we further align with the vision for success? What's our work that's left undone? and how do we advance new priorities for 22-23. And so this is an inclusive process where we invite our system leaders, our students to share their ideas and how we can meet these efforts. Next slide, please. And so the process that we are undertaking is we've provided an overview to the Consultation Council, shared some feedback, and presented a form where they can begin submitting proposals. We will evaluate the preliminary list and then share it broadly with Consultation Council and with system stakeholders for comments and considerations. Then we will craft some drafts to share with the Board of Governors and confer that there is alignment with the board's preset goals as well as a vision for success. In September, it will come to you for consideration and other recommendations. Next slide, please. And so we've shared this with our stakeholders, and the deadline for submissions is July 16th, provides an opportunity for the college finance team, the GR team to review these various proposals and think about them in the context of not only what additional data do we need to make the case for these investments, but where do we partner and how do they align with our goals. Next slide, please. We will continue to engage our system constituents on this area and present the shared advocacy draft at Consultation Council in August before bringing it back to the Board of Governors. What we are doing is working backwards from a timeline of and due date of September 30th, where we have to submit our budget change proposal known as BCPs to the Department of Finance, as they also begin crafting the budget for 22-23. With that, I will turn to Vice Chancellor David O'Brien to share a little bit more about the information that we are requesting from our partners.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Navarrete. If we can move to the next slide, please. So we've sent out this form. I just wanted to give board members a brief preview of it and see if there are any questions or thoughts on this. But we have sent out this form and are asking for submissions back to us by the end of this week to all of our partners, including our Consultation Council, our districts and college CEOs and other stakeholders. And it basically provides an overview of the information and justification and analysis that we need here at the Chancellor's Office in order to develop proposals and consider them as part of the overall budget and legislative request. So without going through all of these fields, we're asking that everybody provide a proper background, identify what's currently being done to address the issue and why those efforts are unsuccessful or insufficient. Or Board Member Williams, I'm looking at you, we can talk about the zero textbook cost and how what we'll want to do is justify the need for something that is more scaled up and integrated into ongoing efforts. Analysis of feasible alternatives, strongest arguments, a fiscal analysis and justification is very, very important. That's especially important for Lizette and her team to know what source of funds are you looking to get out there, and I'm sure Vice President Costa would have questions about that particular question as well. Previous state or federal legislation, relevant statutory code sections we're asking everybody for, and then very importantly, just so the board is aware of the chain of command and protocol, we're asking, and we are aware there's a typo in question 11, but we're asking for all submissions to be approved by either a division head at the Chancellor's Office, a Consultation Council representative, or a district or college CEO or general counsel. But this is what we're using. It's a sort of fleshed out version of a form reviewed in previous years, and we're hopeful that all of our partners and stakeholders filling this out to the best of their ability in advance will provide us with the information and justification we need to then make a fully informed recommendation to Consultation Council and to the board in September. I believe that concludes the slideshow, Vice Chancellor Navarrete, but we're happy to take any questions from the board.
So I see one hand up. Board Member Escobar Carrillo.
Yep, thank you so much. This seems like a really great plan for how to solicit feedback. I want to just better understand how you're going to send out the call for ideas and advice. I'm sorry if I missed that. Want to make sure that we're providing all of our stakeholders and partners the ability to provide that feedback. So I was just trying to understand a little bit better. And you said this process is different than previous years. It definitely seems pretty robust, but if you could say a little bit more about, why you decided that this was the way to go. I have a general sense, but it'd be good to hear more directly from you all.
Yeah, happy to share a little bit about how this was disseminated across the system. We used a multitude of avenues. So we used our various stakeholders that target key groups. We've also sent it to all the various partner associations and organizations, encouraging them to submit proposals and ideas. We presented this to Consultation Council. So we've mostly disseminated out digitally and by email, but partners can also find this online to submit. And we are open to guiding folks through the form if they have any questions about what to include or what to add in some of the questions. So that's generally been the process. How it differs from last year is last year we since there was such a drastic change at the middle of 2020 in the pandemic, the crafting of the system budget request really focused on unmet needs in 1920. And so this is more of an open call than we had last year, which was really about defending what we had, not being cut, and advancing efforts that were unmet. So that's really kind of the key distinction.
Okay. Well, I think it's great to see such a robust process, and allowing people to be more aspirational is great. I do want to make sure that for folks that maybe aren't as haven't gone through this process before, but maybe have a great idea, I just making sure that some of those folks are able to participate in the process as well. And it's good to know you're open to helping provide some support to folks who might need a little bit more assistance. But like I said, maybe have great ideas, but haven't gone through this process before. So appreciate that. Thank you.
So we have Vice President Costa and then Board Member Grande.
Thanks for another great presentation, team. I know it'll go out to the field and it'll come back to us in the fall. So I just want to lay a marker on what I'm looking for. People probably read, inflation is up. And so I really do believe that fundamentally the economic underpinnings are going to be quite different as we head into the fall. And so my request to the field would be to really think about kind of what does the post-COVID world look like for us and our campuses? How do we get students back? What are some of the innovations or things that campuses, would like to build upon that they were kind of forced to do in COVID, or the different ways in which they're going to have to operate now that we've been through a global pandemic? So that would be my request, and hopefully we'll get some great ideas. I have every faith that we will.
Thank you. We will look for those as well.
Great, thank you. I would just ditto what Vice President Costa has said. The more information we have about where this is a wonderful budget, but it will not be the same situation next year. I can almost put money on it. So therefore, we really do, I think, as she said, we really do need to see and have our colleges, and maybe that might be a wonderful kind of presentation around what are they doing differently relative to enrollment and recruitment, and what are the lessons learned from the pandemic that they're bringing forward into not only their thinking, but in terms of institutional change. So I think that would be very worthwhile having that discussion. With that, Board Member Grande, and then we have a hand up for Board Member Terra Silva.
Thank you, President Haynes, and thank you, Vice Chancellor Navarrete and Vice Chancellor O'Brien for the presentation. This may echo some of the themes that Trustee Williams has already mentioned and others have commented on, but one of the things that I find most inspiring in our current budget is the strong commitment to workforce development, specifically the Strong Workforce Program, competency-based education pilots, and other things that will focus on what we anticipated was going to be the incredible need for an economic recovery. It is true that we are seeing a post-pandemic world that right now has us flush with resources we didn't anticipate. But much like Member Williams has mentioned with zero textbook cost degrees, a number of our career education programs have extensive requirements for supplies and equipment. And what we have found after the pandemic is that not all industries are going to rebound with this same level of employability as it once had. So there will be a redesign or realignment of our emerging and priority sectors of the economy that we're going to need to focus, hopefully, some concerted resources. This is our one chance with the one-time funds that are coming through to really get above the curve that we know is coming. The wave that we are riding is soon to balance out. And this is a time that we can really earmark some resources for the workforce development programs, the career education courses that require so much of our students in terms of not just the resources of time and money, but also the involvement of our entire system, understanding where general education textbooks might be expensive. Try career education equipment and supplies. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Terra Silva, and then I see Board Member Epstein, and then Board Member Rawlings.
Thank you, President Haynes. Thank you for this amazing presentation. And right now, I would like to bring up the conversation about the broadband access since it wasn't a part of the previous budget. We all know that internet access is fundamental to education and the quality of life, especially after the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. In California, Black, Latinx, rural, and low-income households are disproportionately unconnected to the internet, increasing the risk of children falling behind their peers in school. Ensuring the widespread access to broadband will help close the gap to existing educational and societal inequities. Due to the pandemic, community college students struggled a lot with connecting to their classes, staying engaged within the Zoom sessions, and taking their exams, which spotlighted that internet now is a part of the educational journey for good, just like the textbooks are. Moreover, Recovery with Equity Task Force presented by Dr. Lande Jose together with phenomenal students across the state has outlined that subsidizing internet access for eligible students is one of the most essential steps towards the more suitable, resilient, and coordinated recovery. While there are millions of dollars this year invested in technology and particularly in modernizing the internet access across the state, and considering that there are over 100 California community colleges across the state, I totally see the opportunity for our system to be the central voice and to be the first hotspot for this infrastructure project. Furthermore, my request would be to think about the internet access to be a part of the financial aid package as well for students. So I was wondering if there is any part of the conversation that is going for that topic in the next year budget, or if not, I would be happy to discuss it more with the Chancellor's Office team.
Yeah, thank you, Board President Haynes. I'm happy to answer that since that was a specific question. board member, we would be very happy to discuss that with you. I had been given a sneak preview or a heads up that that was a priority of yours, and we very much share that priority. So more than happy to discuss with you, as well as possibly with our student senate, the possibility of jointly putting something forward on that. But yes, it's very much a topic of a high priority topic of ours, closing the digital divide. We've heard about it from a lot of our instructors and faculty as well.
Thank you for that response. Board member Epstein.
Thank you. I want to echo Member Tarasova's advice to really work hard on internet connectivity. I think that's really important too, but that's not what my comment is about. My comment is about enrollment, and the $100 million that the legislature and governor gave us for this coming year is great, but probably not sufficient. I mean, I think as we all know, we lost system-wide probably 10% of the students, which means we used to like to say we had 2.1 million students. Well, now we're down to 1.9. And I think that as we're preparing this budget, the system and the colleges should really make obviously a significant effort to use that $100 million wisely and bring back as many students as possible. That's a real equity issue. Most of the students who dropped out are people of color or older students that are underrepresented to begin with. And by being careful with how the money is spent, and by tracking the data on it, they could make a case for an additional extra allocation in the next budget year, because it's going to take more than 1 year to bring back those students. So I think that should be a very high priority.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, Board Member Rawlings.
You got it. Thanks. I lowered my hand a little bit quick. So main question I had was, what's the best format to get you these requests in? I've heard a couple of requests from folks. I'll certainly be working with partner organizations and probably reach out to each of you just to follow up. So I wanted to know that as the main point, but I did want to highlight, as others have done, a couple of my priorities. One, particularly being the need for continued professional development. I know we've got some funding this year for that. Having some of that continue, I think, will be really important, especially as we're having to transition back from what we've learned really during the pandemic and having remote learning, and how we're going to be able to effectively apply some of that learning to in-person instruction and additional services, right? So there's a level of professional development there, a need that's going to be ongoing for at least a few years. But the main point, I think the highest priority for me would really be, how do we address some of these learning gaps? How do we address some of these outcomes and outcomes gaps that we have? And one of the solutions that has been in my mind is one of the things that we've applied fairly well in K through 12, which is having embedded paraeducators in the classroom. So the point I would make is that there is nothing better for our students than a really exceptional faculty member, right? Just at its face, that's the baseline. But sometimes they're going to need some extra supports, especially when we're talking about the concurrent supports, co-requisite classes, and having embedded tutors or some kind of embedded paraprofessional, paraeducator with them there in the classroom that also carries on the relationship with the student outside the classroom, I think is a pretty key area of support. I think would yield some benefits, but I wanted to put that on your radar. There's a lot of benefits to it, in addition to creating a pipeline for more diverse faculty along that track as well. But I'm happy to follow up with you on those things.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'd like to go to public comment.
The public comment period for item 6.3 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature. If you're calling to the meeting, use *9. A member of the Chancellor's office will call and allow you to address the board. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. We have not received any written comments on this item, and I will now turn it over to Gary for any hands raised.
There are no hands raised for this item.
Thank you for that. We're at 11:38 and we do have a couple of more items. Oh, first, I want to thank both David O'Brien and Lizette Navarette for a wonderful presentation. I look forward to seeing what comes out in terms of the next budget. So we're going to go to item. We've dispensed with 6.4 yesterday. So we're going to go to an item that's extremely important to me at 6.5, which is the call to action update on police academies and campus policing. We have Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado, as well as a co-presenter, Vice Chancellor Weber. Thank you so much. If you'll begin this presentation, I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you, Board President Haynes. Morning, as was noted, I am Marty Alvarado, the Executive Vice Chancellor for Educational Services and Support, and in partnership with my esteemed colleague, Vice Chancellor Weber, we will be providing an update on the progress to date for a few items of the call to action agenda. Next slide, please. So let me begin with, as you are all aware, last June of 2020, the Chancellor and his leadership team issued a call to action following the murder of George Floyd. Given that particular moment in time, this team really recognized that while the vision for success established the foundation for advancing impact and equity, and the DEI integration plan approved and initiated by this board really provided a critical vehicle for changing outdated structural policies and practices related to increasing equity and inclusion. There was still very clearly a need to mobilize our full system to take action around interrogating and dismantling structural racism directly related to how our students of color, particularly Black and African American students, experience our institutions, our classrooms and education programs, and those we directly prepare for law enforcement professions. And so responding to this call to action, taking on more directly structural racism much more explicitly, requires that we push past all of us, our entire system, and as individuals, push past our own discomfort, that we challenge long-held assumptions, that we give voice to those that have directly experienced the impact of the structural racism, and that most importantly, we listen and believe what they share with us. And as a result of all of this, we also then have to make the often difficult decisions to shift or redistribute our power and funding through changes within our system structures. This is the call to action that we initiated last June. This was what we were asking our full system to engage in, this interrogation and embracing this discomfort. It's the work that has been taking place over the past year. And today's presentation will focus on these first three items that are bolded on your screen today, really providing updates on the approaches that we have been engaged in around evaluating and interrogating our first responder and law enforcement training, as well as trying to understand and interrogate how campus policing directly impacts campus climate and how that interplays with what is happening within our classrooms across our campuses. We also want to make sure that we are giving voice to the amazing work that has been happening by leaders across the system. And so we will also share a brief video with you all that really puts front and center the work that they have been doing on these issues. So with that, I would love to hand it over to my colleague, Vice Chancellor Weber. Next slide, please.
Good morning, Board President Haynes, Vice President Costa, members of the board, and Chancellor Oakley. I am Shani Weber, Vice Chancellor for Workforce and Economic Development. With the call to action in June of last year, where we really landed in the first phase was focusing on two parts: building a relationship with the Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, also referred to as POST, particularly related to the 19 post-certified basic police academy programs that are operated by our colleges, as well as the many colleges that also offer portions of the police academy training and in-service training for active peace officers. The second part was examining campus policing culture and climate and how the campus police and public safety departments are structured. So from the onset, we felt that it was really important to listen to the field, to really learn and gain a better understanding of this larger context in a very complex, multifaceted issue of police culture reform, particularly where we as a system have influence versus where we have control. And this larger review of the context and issues also provided a framework for prioritizing our efforts and resources for the biggest impact. So with regards to building a relationship with POST last year, the Chancellor's Office started dialogue with the POST leadership, which led to a joint webinar with POST to help the system better understand the standards and requirements around basic police academy programs, as well as exploring the concept of evidence-based policing. A total of 4 webinars were held from August to December of last year, with 3 focused on evidence-based policing, beginning with the introduction of the concept and as it relates to training and the use of force. These webinars were recorded and posted on our website, and the link to the summary documents for the webinars have been provided as part of the attachments of this agenda item. Another outcome of our work with POST was the appointment of a Chancellor's Office staff to the advisory committee of the Commission for POST. After the call to action, we were very encouraged to see that many campuses responded to the call. And colleges such as Santa Rosa Junior College and El Camino College, among others, held listening sessions and dialogue with their students and their communities to talk about policing on campus. And colleges began to look at adapting their curriculum and programs to address cultural diversity. Next slide, please. So from the webinars, the evidence-based policing concept has been adopted as the foundational guiding philosophy of our approach to this entire effort in terms of the direction and the model for the field. The whole concept of evidence-based policing in itself is somewhat controversial within law enforcement because this approach calls for increased accountability and transparency in policing practices and approach to use. So this concept is also very closely aligned with our system's vision goals. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier that many campuses responded to the call to action, and Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado mentioned the video that we would like to share with you. This is a 6-minute video produced by our Vice Chancellor of Communications, Paul Feast, and his team, which provides an overview and collection of the efforts at the various colleges, and of course, featuring our very own Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado. And after the video, she will continue with the presentation.
With the events that happened the summer of 2020, it really hit home that every one of us needed to take action. And our chancellor and our leadership team here at the Chancellor's Office recognize the role that we play in training and educating the police workforce. We recognize that we needed to move beyond words and actually dig into and evaluate and interrogate our own practices and ensure that we were designing instructional programs that focused on equity and social justice, racial justice, and that our campus policing was as transparent and as inclusive as possible. The first step for our office was really to issue the call to action. It was the first step in really mobilizing our campus communities, our 116 colleges, to begin to address the issues that we're seeing across police reform.
We have had some incidents where we have a very small Black population, but we didn't realize that many of these students have been profiled by not only our law enforcement, but as well as our faculty and staff. We have started various conversations across campus over the past 2 or 3 years about how we can make sure that this doesn't happen. We look at our data on crime statistics at least twice a year, and we want to see if there's a disproportionate impact. And then we use that as a training opportunity. What can we do to address this and get ahead of this challenge before it becomes more of a systemic problem on campus? But the data is key for our success, taking a step back and analyzing our policies, our practices, and improving our policing on campus. The ultimate goal is to limit police interactions with our students that has the potential to escalate. They are not to really engage our students without our consent, unless it's something that's absolutely urgent.
When George Floyd was murdered, our Black Student Union stepped forward with a very clear list of areas that they didn't feel that we were doing so well in. We had some really difficult, I would have to say they were listening sessions. That conversation, that dialogue is critical to being better with each other. And we're not just having conversations, we are collecting data on the stops and the service that we're providing. We purchased body-worn cameras, and we've got training on cultural sensitivity and anti-racism and de-escalation procedures. So it has already begun to change the way that we operate.
You know, the State of California and Post provides a phenomenal outline for what is essential to create ethically driven police officers. But we felt that it was important that we augment the required training with some additional dimensions that we believe will make our police officers, our graduates, the very best that they can be. And part of our augmented training that we offer in our additional 44 hours includes such things as implicit bias. It's essential that our recruits understand that all of us have biases and they affect how we view the world. We've had our faculty partner with the University of Florida in the area of fair and impartial policing, where we really try to drill down into how do we make proper decisions? What do we need to know about history and context and the challenges that people of color or underrepresented groups face on a daily basis?
It's important for police academies and all of our public safety programs to listen to the communities that we serve. We also bring in community members into each class of different ethnic and religious backgrounds, and we dialogue with them with our entire cadet academy class. So it's an exchange of cultures that we embed into our police academy curriculum.
I think I've wanted to have a career in law enforcement for as long as I remember. Growing up in Southwest Santa Rosa, it wasn't really an obtainable goal for kids coming from that neighborhood. People around me growing up kept coming in contact with law enforcement, and it always astonished me, like, why is this happening? Why can't they do better? Why aren't they doing better? I think my ability to kind of generationally make a change in my family's dynamics is very huge for me. So my opportunity is each and every day to make a difference. Oftentimes, a lot of people have had negative interactions with police officers. So if I can, every single person aim to kind of reinstill the hope in policing. That's my goal each and every day. Am I going to succeed in that 10 times out of 10? Realistically, probably not. Ultimately, the goal at the end of the day is to be better. If we know better, we can do better.
This is a continuous process. One thing that we can't do, we can't rest on our laurels. We have to continue to push forward. We have to continue to bring awareness to our students, to our community, to our law enforcement agencies. In a perfect world, campus safety looks like, this is my neighbor. This is my friend who is making sure that my surroundings are safe.
One of the things that we are really focused on is a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. It's core to our vision for success, and it is embedded across all of our reform initiatives. What this is really requiring that we do is take a hard look on the disaggregated outcomes and experiences of our students of color, in particular Black and African American students. It's incredibly meaningful to see how my colleagues have responded to this and how much we have to feel proud of as we continue to build from the changes that we've made thus far and the response we've had, but also the willingness to get uncomfortable individually in order to really transform opportunities for our students.
I can I continue to feel incredibly proud of our colleagues across campuses who have been engaged in this work and have immediately responded to the call to action that was issued by our office. I want to spend a little bit of time now talking about what we are doing at the state level regarding campus climate. We launched a task force earlier this year, to really focus on the campus climate component of this work, and then pull in the campus policing as we move forward. Next slide, please. So what I want to highlight here is what the charge of the task force is. I realize this is a lot of text, and so board members, you have this presentation for future reference and additional context. What I want to call out here is that the task force is focused on these 5 areas, providing recommendations to our office and to this board around baseline policy and regulation changes that are required in order to ensure that we are not just giving this a nod while we are in crisis, but really making the structural changes needed to ensure that we are protecting students' safety and experience on our campuses. It is also focused on understanding what type of reporting on campus policing data would be critical for a continuous improvement approach to making changes in campus policing and how this looks on at our institutions. As was noted in the presentation, in the video, and also through many of our task force members, this is something that many of our institutions are already trying to understand and dig into. And there are several gaps in the campus policing data that will likely need to be addressed. The next 2, 3, and 4, there is an intentional focus on really understanding and evaluating the policy on the recruitment and hiring of campus police officers, whether that is contracted or whether that is a direct hire at the college. And then understanding what the policies are for the removal of police officers that may not be suitable for our campus environments and the type of campus climate and culture that institutions are trying to build, and as a system we are trying to reinforce. And then lastly, strategies for state level support and resources. What are the types of supports that our campuses will need as they make shifts and try to address longstanding issues? Next slide, please. The task force members, clearly I'm not going to read this to you. What I wanted to highlight here is that based on the charge of the committee, we tried to ensure that we had a diverse representation of stakeholders that participated in the committee that included both external stakeholders and internal. You'll note that there are individuals from HR, from human resources, from data and research, from general counsel, CIOs, academic senate, and then most significantly, our students. And the student voice within our committee meetings has been powerful. They have talked about their lived experience on the campuses and what changes mean and what assumptions they walk into, or what past trauma, I should say, that they bring with them to our campuses that gets re-triggered as they engage in their educational progress and pursuits. Again, you have this information. We wanted to highlight that we tried to be intentional in the membership and the diversity of the membership, CEOs, trustees, and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. This gives you a highlight of the intended schedule. We have met twice. Our first meeting was in April. The second meeting was in May. We are now preparing for the September 13th meeting. We really had a level setting conversation in that first meeting. We dug into the data and accountability in the second meeting, and we'll be taking on the policies, a review of the policies and practices related to hiring, training, and campus climate as we move forward. We are anticipating that we would be bringing recommendations from this task force to this board in early 2022. Next slide, please. Again, I won't read this to you, but what we wanted to highlight here is that based on those first 2 conversations, where we did include national partners who have been deep in this work as institutions, brought in a lot of context that was helpful to level set for the committee, again, as well as student voice. Is establishing what we've looked at is really, or what we've recognized, I should say, is the need to establish governance and operation structures that really enable campuses to have sort of a compass for how they will be navigating this, sort of taking into account that what we are trying to do within this task force and keeping folks focused on is we are trying to establish the enabling conditions for campuses to exert local accountability and local control and implementation. And I know that's a tension we continue to toggle between. And this group is very mindful of our role is to create those enabling conditions, but also understanding where there are long-seated practices and beliefs that may need an extra policy push as we move forward. We really want to support, we really want to support and recognize the need to ensure that across our campuses, we are shifting this culture of policing from warrior to guardian. And what we have heard from across multiple institutions is how they are rethinking that training program, really bringing in psychology and sociology and other instructors, not just law enforcement instructors, into the actual law enforcement training. Next, we're focused on student success. So part of what was brought to the group and what really spurred significant conversation is the extent to which we correlate or look at data related to police interactions and how that either positively or negatively impacts student success. I know our research folks in the room sort of cringed at the idea that we would be able to have this kind of capacity and level of data. But what we are really focused on is making sure that we are at least having the conversation of when students interact with law enforcement on our campuses, does it contribute to their student success and create a reinforcing connection to the community, or is it alienating for students? And what does that look like in a disaggregated format? We want to ensure that we are increasing accountability for our campus communities, that we are actively looking at the data and who it's impacting, who is having police called on them, and for what purposes. And then again, here I want to tie it back to that classroom climate component, because I think the piece that we have to be mindful of is when staff or faculty members are calling police on students, we need to ensure that we're leveraging the right resource. Is it really a matter for the police, or is a different type of intervention needed? And how do we support faculty who may be on campus late at night by themselves with a classroom of students? How do we ensure that they have the resources they need to be able to support students in those types of situations, and perhaps not default to what is a classroom management issue to become an escalated police issue. And then lastly, across the board, we want to make sure that we are focusing on increasing diversity across our police forces, both on campus and in the workforce that we are training. Again, this is just preliminary based on the 2 conversations that we've had with the task force. We anticipate that this is these themes will continue to surface as we move forward in the conversations. Next slide, please. So what's coming next? One of the things that we wanted to make sure we are focused on, and then I will hand it over to my colleague, Vice Chancellor Weber, to fill in here as well. Obviously, as I noted, we will have the Police Reform Task Force recommendations that will be coming back to this board early next year. Even though that's only 5 months away now. So in 5 months, 2022 sounds far away, but it is around the corner. We also have initiated some conversations with national community college leaders who are also interested in this work. What was noted as we dug into this work is how absent community colleges often are from these conversations around campus policing. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that we were learning from other national community college partners who are leaning into this or who see this as an area of priority. We hosted our first national conversation in partnership with the JFF organization earlier or late last month, I want to say, and really begun to seed conversations around how do we ensure that this is a conversation that is happening across community colleges nationally, and that we are elevating the work that we are doing within this space. And then lastly, initiate system-wide surveys to understand what our campus policing structures look like across our campuses. It looks very different depending on which campus you are at, both from the governance and operations structure, as well as to whether it's contracted or whether they're hired as direct employees. So I'll pause there and hand it over to Vice Chancellor Weber to continue.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado. So as noted, we've conducted a series of surveys with our colleges to better understand the structures of those departments and how those departments are structured for public safety and policing on campus. And with regards to the police workforce and the ongoing work that is in that area, we are also conducting a number of surveys of our 19 basic police academies, trying to get some initial data. Our partnership with POST has yielded a number of data that sets of data they've shared with us to really understand, hiring, completion rates, and then looking at the diversity of the workforce and what those implications are for us in terms of recruitment and recruitment and training of students. We are also conducting a landscape analysis on how the 19 basic police academies have been implemented based on the POST outline that they provide for basic police academy training. And every college implements it differently. The guidelines provided by POST are just that. And it's important that we understand how we select participants in each of these academies, how we do recruitment, and then the actual training experience of the recruits, they're called cadets actually, and the instructional experience, as well as trying to identify the effective and promising instructional approaches that are currently in use. We have some very innovative practices within our system. I think that could be very much standards for the state as well. There are 41 post-certified basic police academies in the state of California, and half of them are operated by the local law enforcement agencies. We also, with this landscape analysis, would like to gain some insights into areas of opportunities for improvement, particularly around curriculum and instructional approaches. This will be really especially important working with the statewide academic senate. And then ultimately there may be regulations or policy recommendations that will come out for considerations as well. And then finally, we will be continuing our collaboration with POST on the webinars in 2021. We held our first webinar last month focused on the language in terms of the use of words and communication tones, shaping not only what officers do, how they behave, but how individuals experience interactions with the police officers and the relationships between police agencies and community they serve through the way communications occur. The next webinar will look at the underrepresentation of women in policing nationally and in California, and the efforts to increase women in policing and the opportunities for our police academies to support this effort, increasing women in the police workforce. And other webinars are being planned to complement the conversations of the Campus Police Reform Task Force. I will stop there and we are open for any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much for this presentation. I'm looking to see if any of my colleagues have questions. I see Vice President Costa's hand up. You can, and Board Member Epstein. So Vice President Costa.
Thank you. I agree, a very timely presentation. And my question is about something actually Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado that you mentioned, and that has to do with the campus level data. And you intimated that there were some holes. Sounds like we have some good data perhaps from POST, but can you talk a little bit more about the campus level data and what the task force has been able to kind of review?
Sure. I think to just summarize it, what we, in our first cursory review, the only data that is required is related to the Clery Act. Yeah. And that is very, very limited, right? And then additional data that campuses collect is based on if they so choose, right? There isn't necessarily any other parameters that require consistent collection of data or consistent data set across all campuses. And it doesn't necessarily require that we are looking at the data from a disaggregated perspective. right? So we're not necessarily breaking it down. And then the other piece of that is that that data is does not get aggregated at the state level. So we're not able to see what's happening across all of our campuses, and where there might be hotspots or trends where that could inform professional development or supports or additional resources. And so again, our researchers, I'm sure, will correct a lot of what I have to say, but I think the biggest issue that the task force wrestled with is how would we get data? What would be the appropriate amount of data? What would we be able to do with it? Those are some of the conversations that are swirling around the data pieces.
Thank you. Board Member Epstein?
Thank you. I have a question for Vice Chancellor Weber. It's about the academies. You said that there are 40 police academy or police training programs, and 20 of them are run by the police departments. What role do the community colleges play in the ones that are run by police departments and the ones that are not run police departments? And how many are on community college campuses?
So the basic police academies as a statewide, as a standard that's set by post. And for the academies that volunteer, this is a voluntary process, that choose to be certified by post, they follow a very specific outline and standards of training set by post. There's about 43 learning domains that have to be covered by the basic police academies. Post specifies the minimum number of hours for each one of the learning domains. So these 41 academies are actually certified by post and follow the same standards. The 19 of these 41 are operated by our campuses, and then the rest are operated by local law enforcement agencies. So for example, LAPD runs their own police academies, but they also sometimes draw and hire from other police academies as well.
So what role does community college faculty play in the development of the curriculum along with post?
That's a great question. So post actually sets the standards and outline. They provide some very specific framework for the content, like what to teach. How we teach it and who we select to teach it is really up to the community colleges. And so that's one of the reasons we're doing this landscape analysis, to understand what, how are we teaching this, and the instructors that are being selected to teach this. All of this sort of is part of the whole formula in terms of the quality of instruction and the success of the candidates in completing and getting hired by the agencies.
And one last question is, there's a bill that I'm sure you're aware of that would raise the age for a police officer from 18 to 25. If that were to pass, how would that impact the programs that we operate?
We have some concerns about that because most of our students appear to be under 25. It's a hiring age requirement. There is one thing to note, though, is that anyone under the age of 25, if this bill were to pass, would still be able to be hired if they go through the appropriate training, if they also had a bachelor's degree or advanced degree. I think it's an effort by legislation to try to increase the education level of police officers. Research have shown that generally, police officers that sort of, for lack of a better term, stay out of trouble are those that are more experienced, higher educated, and women officers.
So, but when people leave one of our programs, do they have an associate's degree?
It depends on how the program is structured at each of the basic police academies at our campuses. Some of them do have a degree. Some of them are just a certificate, because once you've graduate and complete a basic academy training program, you now then go into, if you're hired, a field training which is about a year long at a local law enforcement agency, and you're not really sworn in as a police officer until you complete the field training.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any more hands up. So I have some observations and a question sort of embedded in some of those. Just from my own experience as a trustee with a police department on our 4 campuses. So there's one of the things that that I have seen is, and I'm hoping that this gets addressed in some of the discussions or in some of the information. The hiring of the police is critically important. And so part of the challenge that I've seen is that in some cases, when we get these reports as trustees, it appears that our law enforcement officers are an extension of the city and the county polices. In other words, they are either citing for things that I don't even think they raise to the level of an infraction, but they become sort of that arm, and for our students, it can be problematic. The other issue that I have found is, and this may be more so, it may be helpful to it's obviously always helpful to have diversity in any ranks when dealing with anyone. You want to see yourself reflected, but and that may be true of our college campuses, but some of that data does not get borne out in law enforcement institutions. It appears that the institution is so strong relative to its own culture that even if you are a person of color, you get subsumed, and fear becomes an operative word relative to your role. And that is borne out, but most recently borne out in the George Floyd incident, murder, in which there were officers of color that were actually on the scene that did really nothing to protect and to serve him. And so I'm hoping that that someplace within the curriculum, someplace within that requires a change in institutional mindset. And so I'm hoping that that kind of conversation happens, because that's both a top down and a bottom up problem. So there's that. And lastly, I think it was you, Dr. Alvarado, that mentioned the limiting officers' engagement as much as possible. I think that was in the video. And this may not be the opportunity to answer that question, but I'd like to know how that happens, and that may happen easier because it had to do with our campuses. What kinds of things are in place to make that happen? And let me just give you an example. At Sacramento City College, there was an incident, and it got a lot of knowledge. Sacramento City College is my area. It's who I represent, not my representative area, and there was a fear. The students came together to discuss it in the quad, of the incident, and our president, rightly so, basically had to tell our officers, I mean, it's a learning process, don't stand in military gear with your hands on your hips or whatever that posture was, because that posture in and of itself was frightening. And I was actually physically there to witness that it felt for students like something could happen because just because of the officers' posture. And so there's still a lot of work to be done. And I'm hoping that you will come back to us with with some really concrete recommendations about how to de-escalate by just be positional situations, because it is a great concern and it does impact the environment and the experience of our students.
President Haynes, if I may just add very quickly that one of the things that we have learned is that on our college campuses, we have 72 districts. We are doing a survey to find out how many districts actually contract with local law enforcement agencies to provide public safety, as opposed to operate their own police department. I believe that it's within regulations, or regulations allow campuses, colleges to operate their own police departments, which means we have a lot more control over how the colleges do, how they staff and hire for those positions. And I believe that in this process, as we learn more, we will find a lot of opportunities to, and part of the conversation with the task force about providing students with a safe and secure learning environment on campus, and sort of in some ways developing policies and mindset about providing that kind of a sanctuary environment for our students when they're on campus that promotes the learning that Executive Vice Chancellor Alvarado spoke about.
So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the time. I want to recognize my colleagues who are still hanging in here. But this is such an important issue, and I want to just add this one thing. While Los Rios has a police department, we also had like 5 or 6 MOUs with county sheriffs and with our different police departments, because we transgress over multiple counties and multiple cities. And I have to tell you that I read those MOUs and they were problematic. They were problematic because our officers, and I'm not saying that this is just within Los Rios. What I'm saying is that there may be a propensity of giving over power to another police department, in which once you do that, you relinquish your role and sometimes your values in doing so. And so what I can say, the good news is that our police chief has gone through every single one of those MOUs and had them rewritten, where we don't, that if police officers from a jurisdiction comes on our property for whatever reasons, that we maintain, there are certain levels of control that we maintain. And then there's others that if it's a shooting, then that's different, that kind of thing. But I think that we really need to dig deep in terms of what our college campuses are actually responsible for, and then to what extent are they relinquishing power and authority to be the first, I forget the term, but I just think we need to see what's actually happening out on our campuses.
President Haynes, if I may, and I apologize, I know we're short on time, but I think I really want to hit on what you just shared, because this is the work that the task force is taking up. And I think we have to really think about it relative to the standards that the system is setting, so that campuses are much more involved in evaluating these MOUs because they are contractors, right? We do not have to turn over power to the police force. And this is why establishing those standards, similar to an accreditation agency or others, right? We set those enabling conditions and the benchmark, and then the infrastructure to be able to understand whether or not that's being implemented with fidelity. And again, that goes back to things like AB 705. Just because we set the policy doesn't mean it's getting implemented with fidelity. And I really wanted to just emphasize this, because when we hear from students and their experiences, it's critical to student success, but it's also critical that we continue to name this as we bring changes or recommendations to this board in January or early next year. That will be the hard part, is pushing campuses to actually take the action that you heard Dr. Lenore Johnson talking about in the video. He works with his contracted police force daily, right, and actively protects his students. And that's what's required.
So again, thank you very much. It's a policy issue for me, but it's also an emotional and personal. I appreciate the presentation. I don't see any other questions emanating from my colleagues. I do want to have public comment at this time.
The public comment period for item 6.5 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature. If you're calling into the meeting, use *9. A member of the Chancellor's office will call on you and allow you to address the board. You will have a maximum of 3 minutes. We have not received any written comments on this item, and I will now turn it over to Gary for any hands raised.
We do not have any hands raised for this item.
Well, again, thank you so much for this presentation. I look forward to the recommendations in January. With that, we really have one other item, and it is 6.6. It's the contract. And this is really short, you guys. The contract and grants approved by the board president. We have Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez.
Thank you, President Haynes. There is no formal presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
I don't see any questions. And does this require public comment as well? I guess it does. I signed some stuff. So I signed a few things in between our meetings. So can you please see if there's any public comment?
The public comment period for item 6.6 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature. If you are calling in, dial *9. A member of the Chancellor's office will call on you and allow you to address the board. You have a maximum of 3 minutes. We have not received any written comment on this item, and I will turn it over to Gary for any hands raised.
There are no hands raised for this item.
Well, thank you so much. Then we are at the point of two more things, board member reports. And I'll just take those who have something burning to say, okay, I have Board Member Grande.
Thank you, President Haynes. I appreciate the opportunity to share with the rest of the Board of Governors. I've had the fortune to log in monthly for the Chancellor's Office webinars, and I cannot thank Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez enough for providing so much information on a monthly basis to our entire system. And of course, we'll give the shout out to Chancellor Oakley, who gives introductory remarks at each webinar, but it has been phenomenal to stay engaged during this period of time where we seemed so disconnected. And that's the next thing that I'd like to mention is the next time we come together is after many faculty will have returned to campus and a large constituency of our students will be back in classrooms. I want to tell you from my perspective, I am so excited for August and really looking forward to the level of activity that will take place on our campuses once again. And I cannot even begin to express my appreciation for the faculty that made the sudden migration to emergency remote instruction and then continued with online teaching for the last year and a half. They have done a yeoman's job of making sure that there was no discrepancy in instruction. And I would really be hopeful that as our students begin to see we're coming back to campus, that they come back to greet us as well. And like Member Epstein keeps mentioning, that reduction from 2.1 to 1.9, I'm hopeful that it's only temporary and that as we begin to see our campuses open back up and individuals return, our classified staff, our faculty, that our students will join us as well. And then finally, I'd like to give two shout outs, one to Dolores Davison from the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges and her entire executive team with the Curriculum Institute and Faculty Leadership Institute that I was able to attend. They did a phenomenal job making sure that faculty and staff across the state were still involved, engaged, and able to participate in some of the events that traditionally would take place in person. And I am very hopeful that as our system moves back to in-person activities on our campuses, that we don't lose sight of the events that we have really mastered in the digital domain. And I am hopeful that we can continue the level of engagement with some of our system partners who cannot travel or are at a disadvantage when it comes to funding to be able to participate. And I hope that we continue to offer some of the meetings and some of the sessions in the webinar style format, because we've gotten really good, President Haynes, at saying, you're muted, and reminding our colleagues that we do want to hear what they have to say. And then finally, to the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges, I was able to attend their budget roundtable. President Wendy Brill Weinkoop, as well as their executive director, Even Hopkins, and associate director, Stephanie Goldman, did an amazing job presenting an update to its members on the budget, so that we didn't have to wait until the Board of Governors meeting to get the full update that Vice Chancellor Navarrete did such an amazing job on. I am very, very excited for what the future will bring, and I anticipate that fall is going to be phenomenal.
Thank you so much for that report. We have Board Member Tarasova and Board Member Anderson after her.
I think Board Member Anderson was first.
Board Member Anderson.
Chancellor, Madam Chair, do we know, are we going to be back in person in September?
The expectation is
We will likely be back in person in the November meeting. We're still working on guidance for Bagley Keene and a few other things. And then beyond that, we are hoping to be able to provide hybrid opportunities as we transition back to in-person, but we are likely to be back fully or offer the opportunity to be back in person for our meetings at the November meeting.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Tarasova.
Thank you, President Haynes. I would like to save my report to really emphasize and express my deep appreciation of the Chancellor's Office team work on this year's budget. We have big wins to celebrate and an incredible budget to work off. In particular, I would like to highlight affordable student housing. It has been a part of the conversations for decades and was highlighted when Board of Governors adopted the resolution declaring support for student basic needs. Due to being historically underfunded, community college system has provided limited and insufficient resources to effectively address the full scale of need through existing funding resources, given the student population served by community colleges. Sadly, I know too many students in California Community College that were facing the housing insecurity or being homeless while attending the community college, which really hindered their educational performance and success. Some persevered, but some never showed up in the class. Upon starting my community college experience, I myself struggled with the very same issue, which almost led me to dropping out, buying one-way ticket, and giving up on my American dream altogether. Having to go through that, I firmly believe that continuous support of the basic needs is how we can dismantle the current structures that unduly burden students in need, limiting their access to critical basic resources. Right now is the time, as the investment and the need is there. As student success remains to be the northern star of everything that we do at the Board of Governors, and now with substantial investments over 3 years in housing initiative, I urge the board and Chancellor's Office team to leverage the conversation around affordable student housing, as the students have been asking for it for years. And also, I would like to express my particular interest in joining the effort and continuing to move the needle in addressing the basic needs work.
Thank you for that. So we're now at the part of the agenda for public forum. Are there any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised at this time.
And are there any, Christina, are there any emails that are for public forum?
No, President Haynes, we have not received any written comments for public forum.
Very good, then I would adjourn this meeting, and thank you so much for such a consequential board meeting, a consequential budget. And I want to just recognize that we beat back a whole lot of folks relative to Calbright. I'm overjoyed with that. So again, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Governors.